hope you all agree, but you can object. It's okay for Alex to take some candid photos of us while we are talking. So if you object to having a candid photo taken of you by a very sweet, adorable 9-year-old, please raise your hand. Looks like you're all good to go. So there's no, okay, so not in the gallery. So Alex, just the elected members around the table, okay? Thanks, sweet pea. Thank you. My other sweet peas.
1, 2, 1, 2. That'll do.
Members, and welcome to the 23rd of November 2022 Thames Community Board meeting. I'm Hauraki Ward, the Area Manager for Thames. Welcome to our new members, Holly Kinsley, Adrian Catron, Tashan Rakwa, and Rob Johnson. And also welcome to our returning members, Robin Sinclair, Martin Rodley, and Peter Rebel, who returned as councillors. I'd like to introduce staff in the room today. We have Dean Allen, who is the District Manager. We have Kate O'Malley, who is the Communications Advisor. Welcome to staff online. I see we have a number of staff today, and their faces will become familiar to you over the next 3 years. Also Gina. And I would like to introduce from Government Services. And RE from Government Services. Is there anyone else?
Hi.
Hi.
Tina.
Councillor Walker.
We have Councillor Walker also today.
Deputy Mayor.
Welcome, Councillor Walker. Now I'd like to call on Robin Sinclair to introduce our karakia, and she will lead for today. Robin.
Would you like a copy over in the gallery? No. The background to this karakia, it was gifted to the Thames Community Board by Ngāti Maru. E ngā tohu o mātua atu, o te rangi, o te whenua, e karakia, e mātua, e ngā tākare, e whiriwhiri, ai te tene waka. I rāro āro, I te āro, a rāwari nui ki ronga, a whakatū nuku e te whakatū nene. Whakamaua, kia tina, hauie, huie, tae kia.
Ko te atua, ko ia nei te ariki o te rangi o te whenua.
Amen.
Now moving on to our agenda for today. Item 1.1, the making and attesting of members' declarations. The purpose of this report is to enable the making and attesting of declarations of office by elected members of the Thames Council and the Thames Community Board. Can I please have a mover and seconder on leading this motion?
Second.
Peter, thank you, and Martin is a seconder. So the motion is, so I'd like now to invite Councillor Rebel to come to the front, please, with me to read your declaration.
I, Peter Alfred Rebel, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Thames community the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Thames Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, and any other act.
Now I'd like to call on Councillor Rodley to come forward and read your declaration.
I, Martin John Rodley, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Thames community the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of Thames Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meeting Act 1987 and any other act.
Thank you, Martin. That's you to sign.
I keep the pen.
Now I'd like to call on Councillor Sinclair to come forward and read the declaration.
I, Robin Jean Sinclair, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Thames community. The powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Thames Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 and any other act.
Thank you, Robin.
She was.
See that plug over there, Bob? Yeah, good.
So the motion before you today is that the Thames Community Board receives the making and attesting of members' declarations report dated 7th of November 2022. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carried. We'll now move on to item 1.2 on your agenda today, attendance and apologies. Doesn't appear to be any apologies. It will turn out today.
Please make a note through the chair that I may have to leave at some stage.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks.
Moving on now to item 1.3, the election of the chairperson and deputy chairperson for Thames Community Board. So the purpose of this report is to enable the election in accordance with the Local Government Act 2002 requirements. We'll break down those suggested resolutions in the report into items 1 and 2 first, and then we'll move on to number 3 and then number 4 separately. That's the recommendation. The suggested recommendations. Right, the suggested recommendations number 1 and 2, which are that the consent. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive the motions 1 and 2? Yes. Robin, thank you, and Peter, thank you. Is there any discussion on these motions? So I'll now put the motion that Thames Community Board receives the election of the chairperson and deputy chairperson report dated 7th of November 2022 and approves system B of voting in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2002, Schedule 7, Clause 25.2. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. The next suggested resolution is number 3, the appointment of a chairperson. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive motion 3? I'd like to call for nominations.
No,
What are the chairperson? Adrian Catchell. Do I have a seconder? Peter, thank you. Are there any other nominations for the chairperson? With no other nominations, all those in favour? Aye. All those opposed? Carried. Congratulations. Congratulations, Adrian, on being the new chairperson. We now move on to the election of the deputy chair. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive motion 4? Not. I'll now call for nominations.
But that wasn't me,
for the
I was-
chairperson.
I'll know Rob Johnson.
Adrian would like to nominate Rob Johnson. Do I have a seconder? Yeah. Robin, thank you. Are there any other nominations? With no other nominations, I'd like to move the motion that Thames Community Board appoint Rob Johnson to the position of the Deputy Chairperson of Thames Community Board in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2002, Schedule 7, Clause 17. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Carried. I'd now like to call for. Would you like to speak, Adrian?
Sorry?
Would you like to?
Try to get.
How would you like to be addressed? How would you like to be addressed, Adrian, as the
Oh.
chair of Thames Community Board?
Absolutely. I personally, I believe that it should be through, all comments should be through the chair, so Mr. Chairman or Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and the same would apply to the Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Adrian, for confirming how you'd like to be addressed. I'd now like to ask you to come up and take the chairperson's spot, and I will move.
That move. Second.
Rose, do you
Thank
want
you,
to
Rose.
shuffle so you're closer to the front?
I'll take the name. Yeah.
You can sit there if you wish. No, I'll just sit here for today. Yeah. You're there, Gina.
Okay. I was supposed to bring my chair.
We can get
That's a joy of being a chair. I've got a chair. Thank you. Thank you.
That's yours, Rose.
Am I allowed to make a comment,
Yes.
Mr. Chair? Can I?
Well, first of all, I was going to make a comment.
Okay.
I just going to have a discussion here, so I guess it's a little adjournment. So we can have a little comment on that. But that's ordinary. People just make a comment or Councillor Rebel. Okay. So firstly, before I sit down, I'd just like to say thank you very much for having the faith in me to be the chair of the Thames Community Board. I know that we have a difficult road ahead of us. The good thing about us is that we're a new board. We've got less than 1,000 days to sort things out. And I want the board to be a very proactive board, a board that works together unitedly and try and keep our disruptions down to a minimum if we could amongst ourselves. But one thing that I focus on is the words of John Fitzgerald Kennedy on the 20th of January 1961, when he made these words at your inaugural meeting, inauguration, I should say. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So if you think about that, take the word country out and put in Thames. Ask not what Thames can do for you, but what we can do for Thames. All right? So that's our driving force behind it, I think. And I'm sure, in knowing that the personalities amongst us here, there will be a very strong community board. I'm sure of that, very sure. And I welcome, of course, my deputy, who I rely on heavily throughout the term. Thank you, Rob, for accepting the position. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Councillor Rebel wanted to make a few words.
Yeah, I would like to say a few things. So in 2019, I was elected to the Thames Community Board for the first time. And I came in probably largely not knowing what I was doing, or certainly not knowing what I was getting into, and actually not knowing any of the people around the table. I think one of the things that it convinced me is that the community board can be a hugely significant contributor to the well-being, the culture, to the feeling of this town. I believe that in the last term, we didn't manage to quite grab that opportunity. And one of the things that has excited me both during the election campaign and subsequently is the people that we have represented around this table. I think the potential for us to work to make a difference to this town is really huge. It is a diverse group of people. It is, it's just got plenty of diversity, and I think we need to make sure that we grab that opportunity and to work together in trust and cohesion and to make a difference, because our people, our community deserves it.
Thank you, Councillor Rebel. I appreciate those comments. Did anybody else, Rob, did you? No, Board Member Johnson. So it's a diverse one. I think I'll go across the table very quickly between the age difference, the youngest and the oldest. But I assure you, I'm probably not old and stale. It will be quite an exciting 3 years. Thank you very much. Right, back to the meeting.
Item 1.4.
Item 1.4. May I please have a mover and a second, please receive a motion that's a general explanation of statutory requirements of elected members 2022. Do we have a mover, please? Move, petition. Community Board Member Wright, one. Second by Community Board Member Johnson. Oh, right. Alison, I'm not used to the technology, so I'm looking around where.
Good morning, through the chair. I'm Alison Hunt, the legal counsel here at Thames Coromandel District Council, and I've been asked to provide you with the general explanation of statutory requirements. This report is a requirement for all elected members to receive. Councillors have already heard it, and I've been attending community boards over the last week or so, and so our staff are very familiar with it now too, having heard it several times. But I would just say that familiarity is a really, with this legislation, is very important anyway. So I will repeat things that I'm sure you know, but appreciate that it's a good thing for you to be sure of your obligations. So the requirements for today are that I give you an overview of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, that I include the Local Authority Members' Interest Act, some sections of the Crimes Act, the Secret Commissions Act, and the Financial Markets Conduct Act. In addition, I'm going to touch on the Protected Disclosures, Protection of Whistleblowers Act, the Public Records Act, and the Health and Safety at Work Act. Information is available in guidance documents, which you will already have as well, and training will be rolled out progressively over the term. So to begin with the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, this act is otherwise known as Ulagoima. it provides that local authorities' activities are to take place in an open and transparent manner, and it deals with both official information and meetings. Access to information is important in a local government context. The key principle is that information held by a local authority should be available to the public unless there is a good reason to withhold it. And there are good reasons contained in Lagoima. Those reasons include, just examples, withholding grounds are to protect an individual's privacy, avoid disclosure of a trade secret or unreasonable commercial prejudice, maintain confidentiality, and to maintain legal professional privilege, but only where it's in the public interest to withhold. A person who requests information from the council and is unhappy with the response can make a complaint to the Ombudsman, and that's if the person disagrees with any part of the council's decision to withhold information. Authority to make decisions on requests for information is delegated to the Chief Executive and subdelegated to staff by the Chief Executive. Any request for information you receive as elected members should be referred to the Chief Executive in the first instance. Any information marked public excluded in a meeting should not be released outside of the meeting concerned. Turning to meetings, Lagoima provides rules that meetings should be public. The public will be excluded only if there are reasons under Lagoima for excluding the public, and those reasons are similar to the ones I've given examples of for withholding information. Staff will provide advice on the appropriateness of excluding the public on any matter. Lagoima enables the mayor or the chair of a committee to introduce an item on an agenda if there is a clear reason why the item isn't on the agenda and why it cannot wait for the next meeting. Likely this will only be major items, as urgent matters which are minor will still need to be referred to a subsequent meeting for a resolution and decision on it when it can be a public meeting. A council agenda must be publicly available 2 clear days prior to the council meeting. The Local Authority Members' Interests Act. Now, this act is designed to protect the integrity of local authority decision making and deals with conflicts of interest. There's 2 forms of interest to touch on: pecuniary interest and non-pecuniary interest. Pecuniary interest are those interests involving money, either directly or indirectly. You cannot enter into a contract with council worth more than $25,000 unless the Auditor General approves it. Breach of this rule automatically disqualifies the member from office. You cannot participate in matters before the council in which you have a pecuniary interest, other than an interest in common with the public, such as being a ratepayer. Breach of this rule is a criminal offence and results in automatic disqualification from office. And note that your spouse or a family trust that you hold an interest in may also be a pecuniary interest to be concerned with. And it is your obligation to declare an interest and comply with the Act. The Office of the Auditor General produces a booklet to assist members on this Act, and I'd recommend that you have a look at that. There is very useful and helpful guidance on that topic. There are also new amendments to the Local Government Act, which are relevant to mention at this point. You will have heard about a public register of interests to record members' interests is now a requirement. It became a requirement on 20 November this year. Members are required to provide returns to a registrar who will be appointed to keep the register. An interest not involving money is called a non-pecuniary interest. This type of interest is commonly referred to as bias or predetermination. Bias may exist where by conduct or statements a member may indicate they have predetermined a matter before hearing it, or if the member has a close relationship with an individual or organisation affected by the matter. It's the validity of the council's decision that may be at risk if there is bias or predetermination, and perception of bias or predetermination can be an important factor. Sections 99, 105 and 105A of the Crimes Act. Under Section 99, it defines a member as an official for the purposes of offences. So the offences are, it is an offence to accept or solicit a bribe or to use information obtained in your role for financial gain. Those offences are punishable by a term of imprisonment up to 7 years, and a conviction will disqualify a member from office. The Secret Commissions Act. This Act establishes offences. You are an agent for the purposes of this Act. You cannot accept gifts without the consent of the Council. You must disclose a pecuniary interest in any contract which you make with the Council. You must not knowingly deliver a false receipt or invoice in relation to the Council's business. If you are found guilty of those offences, they are punishable by a term of imprisonment not exceeding 7 years also. The Financial Markets Conduct Act. This Act essentially places elected members in the same position as company directors whenever the Council offers financial products, such as an issue of debt or equity securities. Elected members may be personally liable if documents are registered under this Act, such as a product disclosure statement containing false or misleading statements. The Protected Disclosure Protection of Whistleblowers Act, 2022. This Act is new, but it does continue the previous Act's purpose. If you become aware of serious wrongdoing during the course of your role, you are protected from liability when disclosing that wrongdoing to authorities. Under Council's processes, the options to report potential wrongdoing include reporting to the Council's confidential provider, PwC, to the Council's Manager of People and Capability, the Group Manager, Corporate Services, or the Chief Executive, depending on the circumstances. The Public Records Act 2005. This Act establishes rules around creating and keeping full and accurate records of Council business. It has a role in enhancing public confidence in the integrity of local authority records. Records are widely defined. They include a signature, seal, text, images, sound, speech, or data stored in any device or medium. It is the responsibility of the member to determine if they hold information which is a record under this Act and to ensure that it is included in the Council's records. If you hold public records, please ensure that they are given to staff. You can send those through to the governance team or to the Chief Executive so that they will become part of the public record. Health and Safety at Work Act. Under this Act, the Council is the PCBU, which is the person conducting a business or undertaking. The Act places duties on people who are in the best position to control risks to health and safety as are appropriate. For the purposes of this Act, elected members include the Mayor and councillors, but exclude Community Board members. So the Mayor, councillors, the CE and GMs are officers under that Act, and those officers have obligations of due diligence. That concludes the overview of statutory requirements that's required at this first meeting. If you do have questions during the term, as I've said, please direct them through to the Chief Executive or the governance team will be able to assist.
Thank you, Alison. I presume we can ask you questions now.
You can ask some general questions. Anything too specific, we may answer at a different date. It depends on the question.
Does any board member have any questions? I do. This under Local Government Act 2002 provisions on members' interest. This registrar to be appointed. Is that going to be a council appointed registrar? It's not the obligation of the members to have a registrar, is it?
No, that's right. There will be a council appointment of it. I have not yet heard the details of it myself, so I can't enlighten you on that today. But I'm sure that the governance team will be able to share information about that quite soon.
And I realise it's only 3 days old, the act, but quite fresh.
Yes.
But, yeah. But that's quite wide. That's a catch-all situation. That when it gets into your personal lives. Anybody else got any? No. Thank you very much, Alison. For your
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Take the time to speak to us this morning. Yeah, I propose to put the motion. Well, the motion is that to receive the, oh wait, I'm going to look at it here. To receive the general explanation, it's quite a long one. To receive the general explanation of statutory requirements for elected members 2022 report dated the 9th of November 2022. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, declare carried. Right. Item 1.5, Committee Board Standing Orders for the 2022 to 2025 term. Might I have a mover and seconder, please, that we receive that?
Yes.
We do.
I'm happy to move.
Peter again. Councillor Rebel, do we have
Yes.
Councillor Sinclair? Right, the speaker for that is right next door.
Thank you. I'll take the report as read. If you have any questions, as Alison said earlier. Minor questions, I'll be able to answer them here. Any more specific ones, happy to go away and get some comments.
So through the chair, not so much a question, just a comment. There was under the COVID regulations, the ability for people online to be counted as part of the quorum and also obviously to vote. That legislation was recently revoked. And so we are in a situation at the moment, if we had the 7 of us, if 4 of us couldn't make it physically here, then we wouldn't be able to have a quorum and wouldn't be able to have a meeting. That is a little bit of an anomaly because we can now vote, but can't be considered part of the quorum. And LGNZ, it was raised at an LGNZ conference last week, and they're going to look into that. It was kind of like, it was just put in the legislation, and they had to basically roll back the whole of that legislation, so that got taken out. So it would have to be a specific change to the Local Government Official Information Meeting Act to be able to have online the court. Thank you.
But there's nothing I read that, there's nothing we can do about that currently.
No.
Yeah, any other questions? Dennis is going to answer some questions. You would have all got your standing orders on your laptops or devices. Okay. So I propose to put the motion forward if there's no more questions. That the Thames Community Board 1 receives the Community Board Standing Orders of 2020-25 term report dated the 8th of November 2022 and adopts the Community Board Standing Orders as contained in attachment A of the agenda, which notes the casting vote is available for use by Chairperson. Audio link or audio visual link is available to use to enable members to join the meeting, and the default position for speaking and moving options for motion is option C. Anybody got any questions regarding that long motion? We could put it in part 1, part 2, but I think we'll adopt it as one. Nobody's got any objection. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. That's your standing orders. Coming off. Yes, sir.
Adrian, I think it would help me if there was just a slightly bigger gap between the hearing and then the opportunity for people to vote against. So just as you, Chair, if you could just leave a slightly bigger gap.
There's various options I have. One is I just ask it all in favour, if there's no objection, it's carried without having to call for objections, but we can do that. I do look at the run sheet and see the timing on the run sheet. We don't have a lot of fat around this meeting. So presumably we'll do that, but I take your point, Councillor Rebel, no problems.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we're up to one. Did you tend to pay that one? Okay, really great, young lady. Okay, public forum. So we have in our public forum, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 speakers. And it's written across the top here. I have to remind you, some will probably know this. I have to remind you, you have 5 minutes to speak to the item, and the board can only respond to questions to clarify the matter. You can't make comment on what people have to say. So, We call first speaker, Althea Barker, please. You come up to the front. Out there. It's not very good acoustics in the room, I'm sure you've been.
Yes, I've been here many times before. My name's Althea Barker, and I usually come to speak about historic heritage related matters. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello to councillors and board members and other staff. As I say, in the past, I've been particularly pushing for places like the historic cemeteries of Thames, because they don't have official bodies and they often get overlooked when it comes to funding and why you need extra funding. They're major landmarks in the town which attract tourists all the time. So if you think of it from a business model, they're very important. What I'm here today though is to speak about equity. And again, I usually speak about the two things at the same time because there are certain groups in town that are favoured more than others. So I put it in terms of equity, the situation in which everyone is treated fairly according to their needs and that no group of people are given special treatment. So no group gets special treatment, and apply that to the heritage sector, we should be all treated as one. So I could ask you the question, do you all believe that the heritage attractions in Thames and organisations are equal? Now, I wouldn't answer that quickly with a yes, because you might think politely, yes, I'll say yes, they're all as important. Because it's been proven over the last terms, at least 3 of this Thames Community Board, that there's one group that's valued more than others. One group that gets regular 3-yearly funding of, in the last instance, $60,000. Now that's a lot of money when those of us with many volunteers, we can't afford to employ people, but this allows that group to employ people. So why ask for a change? I'm asking for you, it's too late now because that group has got their $60,000 for 3 years. And I'm not particularly picking on that group, and I've spoken to the chair and the people. All I want is equity. If a precedent has been set that one group is allowed that amount of money, why are the rest of us not? So why am I asking for change? It's unfair and demoralising as a volunteer. You just feel gutted to know that you're slaving and the other people are getting people to do the work that you're doing. Why favour one? And I've listened intently to the thing saying you have legal obligations. Is it legal to favour one over another? Many of you are business people. How would you feel if the person next to you in your business area gets money and you don't? So there's major things. Economic, it actually undermines our survival. You know, what we have to do to actually maintain, to keep our doors open, because we're volunteer organisations, but we're actually businesses at the same time. So what am I asking for? I want some transparency. In this particular case, the organisation, and I'll mention it soon, but I don't want to make it, it's not us against them. It's all very hidden away. When you actually try to find where they've got the money, it's hard to find it. It never comes out in a newsletter saying, yay, TCDC and Thames Community Board are giving the Coromandel Heritage Trust all this money. So I want to know, and you say, why do you come to this meeting? I'd like for once to know in writing, why does one group get funded so much more? Are they seen as more important in what they do? And if so, why so? So we would just like some answers. And if not, you're the new board. Can you redress the wrongs and actually start giving all of us the same amount of funding and support? So it'll be a big learning curve to some of you, because I don't know whether all of you have visited all the heritage attractions. Being a volunteer is what I choose to do. Okay, I'm foolish enough to give 50 to 100 hours a week in, week out, year in, year out, to different organisations. And yes, you get little fancy medals occasionally to say, yay, well done. But it's really demoralising, and let it be known, it affects the culture and nature of all the other groups when you know that one is favoured and the rest seem to be down here. So thank you. I just want, in future, when you're making decisions, please remember equity of means.
Thank you, out there. You actually had 1 minute left to go.
Oh, well, I was so frightened to go home. Any,
I probably dispute your comment that you're foolish enough. I think it's fantastic what you do as a volunteer and give your time that you do that. Does anybody else have any points of clarification? They've taken on board everything you said.
thank you.
Thanks, Alfie.
Thanks.
Caroline McKenzie, on behalf of the Thames Museum Society, you'll have in front of you already a little printout.
And good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. For those of you who are new community board members, let me tell you something about Thames Museum Te Whare Taonga o Te Wairanga, where I'm a volunteer and the chairperson of the managerial committee. The museum is operated at every level entirely by volunteers, including its managerial committee. We have no paid staff. Most of us are retired and have brought to the museum our expertise from our working lives. As well, Elvie and I are both studying for the certificate in museum practice, and we regularly attend training Zooey. Martin, at the gold mine recently, at the forge opening, you acknowledged the many, many volunteer hours that went into achieving that new space. The same applies to the museum, as was acknowledged at the opening of our new Taonga Māori Gallery. Each month, hundreds of volunteer hours are involved in accessioning and cataloguing items, digitising documents and uploading photos onto databases, applying for grants, preparing new displays and refreshing older ones, researching the monthly newsletter. That's Robin's job over there. Hosting group visits. We were very surprised to realise that we'd hosted 14 group visits in the past 5 months from the 1st of June. Interacting with the public and helping visitors with family history research 6 days a week. And in the absence of an eyesight, we often provide information about other attractions around the town and district. Often we are the only attraction open on Monday and Tuesday. All of these tasks are fundamental to keeping the museum in the 21st century and up to modern museum standards. We aim for the highest possible levels in everything we do and perceive that we're only striving to achieve the same standards that museums with paid staff can more easily achieve, whether that be the Treasury or Whitianga Museum or other small town museums with district council funding for wages and running costs, such as Te Araha, Cambridge and Te Awamutu. These are some of the ones that are in our sort of local area and that we keep in touch with. As you can guess, the demands on the time of those of us involved in the museum's day-to-day well-being are immense. We would love to have the resources to have even just one paid staff member to work full-time on some of these tasks. We're active members of the Thames Heritage Network and interact with other heritage attractions which draw visitors to our town. I'm sure that none of you believe that any one attraction is more significant than the others, as each of us offer a special and in its own way unique visitor experience. And we also see ourselves as a community service. At Thames Museum Te Whare Taonga o Te Wairanga, we realise that you, Holly, Adrian, Rob and Kishan, as new community board members, are not responsible for the renewed allocation to the Treasury of $60,000 for wages over the next 3 years. Our request today is that we can meet with you as soon as possible in order to learn how we can also have access to a similar level of funding. We also request that in the years ahead, you will instigate a more equitable distribution of funding for the town's heritage attractions. Have I gone over my time yet?
1 minute left again.
Right, any questions?
Well, okay, does anybody have any questions of Caroline, please? I detected a theme going through this conversation about the grant. So do you get a grant at all from Thames Community Board?
Yes, we get, in the long-term plan, we get $2,182 a year for the upkeep of the building and enhancing the visitor experience. That's 2,182, not 21,000. 2,000.
Right.
And I understand that that may be contestable from now on. That's something that hasn't been clarified yet.
Right. I just got the update here. 2021-22, you got $4,834.60 towards your
That was
gallery.
that was contestable. Yeah. Yes.
And 2022-23, you got 4,800 towards your purchase of cabinets.
Yes.
Okay.
But actually, in the long-term plan, we get 2,100, or we have been receiving 2,182.
Take my hat off to you as well for volunteering the work you do down there. It's amazing. The museum has got such a good vibe about it. Really good. Yes, Councillor Revel.
Thanks. Carolyn, what's the cost of insurance annually for the?
$4,000.
And that covers the contents or the building or both?
How can you cover the content really when you think that everything that's there is unique and irreplaceable?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Do you have to provide your own insurance or is it through council
No, we pay for our own insurance
for contents and building?
for everything that's insured. Yeah. No, council doesn't provide anything towards our running costs, apart from the $2,182 in the long-term plan.
Yes.
If I may.
Yeah.
I know that the grassy area outside is a reserve, but you own the building, am I?
Yeah, we own the building.
Yeah.
And council owns the grounds.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 10.
We are a tenant, yes. But we pay rates for the toilet and that sort of thing.
Yes. You pay for services that you use, toilet, water,
Yeah,
but not a general rate.
no. And we pay a small amount of rent.
$350.
402, I believe.
Thank you very much. There no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carolyn.
I call on Daniel Miller, please. You got a presentation coming up in a bit, don't you? Is this the? Welcome, Daniel.
So this is an idea I've had for quite a long time. It's just brought it to the public for the first time. And I think we've got an asset in the hills line there that we've never used. So that's a picture brilliant. So most towns and cities, they have the data at the base of a hill, they have a network of tracks and lookouts and that sort of thing. Used for exercise, health and fitness. There's considered nature, there's lookouts, recreation, school excursions, and also for traffic groups and other environmental programs. And often these networks of tracks, they are a key part of the identity of the town. And some good examples, the Christchurch portals is extensive tracks, very well used. Nelson, much the same. Wellington, probably the best example, multiple networks of tracks all around the cities and a key part of what makes Wellington so amazing. And you might be thinking the cities, we can't do anything like that, but I don't see why not. Maybe not on the same scale, but certainly something just as good. And There's smaller towns closer to us. There's not only tracks up to the summit of the mountain, but also a network close to the town. Hauraki that have got the Hauraki walkway, very successful there. And Thames, I mean, if you can think of one town that doesn't use the base of the hill, that doesn't have that sort of track, I'm sure where it is. But Thames has nothing like that. But I think we could just find here. And so to start off, something just very simple. My first suggestion would be a lookout over Monotiri. There's an existing track up the Monotiri Creek, an old mining road, and then up over the ridge and joins up with the Waitahi track. And if there was a new track along the ridge for about 300 metres, the lookout point, it'd be about 200 metres high and would have panoramic views right over Thames. Maybe the lookout platform or seat or something like that that's entirely on dock land. There's mining ruins and tunnels at the points of interest, and it would end up with the 2K walk approximately from each end, or about 4K loop if you include the roads. And the whole thing would be within walking distance of the north part of town. And I would be very surprised if it costs very much to do that. Okay, but I'd be surprised if it costs that much. And to give you an idea, that's the sort of view you could get. That's needed a bit of clearing of vegetation to make it much wider than that, but be a very attractive place to go for a walk. I'll probably skip through the rest, just the details here because of time, but so I've suggested is Gentuani or Hauraki. It's the hill up above the dunes. Very rough track there. This thing would be a bit more costly to upgrade that one, but the view from the top there is absolutely spectacular. And I think that one in particular would attract many visitors to Thames. That's the views from the top. And then this is the Una Hill or Cracker Hill, which is behind us just here. There's an existing network of some good, some very rough tracks. With upgrades would make quite a network of tracks there. It'd be very well used, multiple access points to residents. And that's an idea of the views you can get from that area. And then those 3 points, if you join them all together, just suggested possible other tracks. And then you start to look at something much like Christchurch or Wellington. The benefits I can see, there's obviously the locals out that's fitness. I like going for walks, but I often end up just walking on the streets, which that attractive. I think there would be much more motivation to go if we had this network in the hills. Getting into nature is recognised health, mental health benefits. It's an anecdote there from something that happened in Hauraki. I believe it will bring a lot of visitors. I think the Hauraki walkway gets about 200,000 walkers annually. I don't see why we couldn't do at least that. Also, with environmental programs such as trapping and native planting, also very helpful for those groups, and I think it would encourage much more participation in that sort of effort. Excellent for school groups, that sort of thing. And it's just in general, that just makes the town a much more attractive place to live in, and would possibly be a transformation for the town.
Thank you very much. Oh, perfect timing to cover. Any questions, please? Yes, Councillor Rip.
Daniel, couple of questions. One is, what standard are you talking about for a track? I mean, you talk about Gentle Annie, which I can get up it. And yeah, so what constitutes a track versus I don't know, whatever Gentle Annie is, which I thought was a track.
Yeah, well, I mean, this could be various standards. I mean, you can get up there if it's a bit overgrown, it gets very muddy if it's rained recently, which is most of the time. So yeah, so I'm thinking, steeps, at least on the steeper parts, drainage so that it doesn't get muddy, that sort of thing. And I'm not talking footpaths.
Okay. Are you talking all-weather capability? Is that what you're?
Essentially, unless it's actually raining, and of course you get wet anyway.
Okay. And so the first track you talked about, which is a supplementary question, first track you talked about is pretty much already all weather.
Yeah, I mean, I went up there with Robert and Martin a couple of weeks ago, just to show them the main track over the bridge and down to Waihaki, that's like, it's an actually an old mining road, it's been there for around 100 years. And it's really good standard.
Sure.
But yeah.
Okay, and my second question was, what are you actually requesting of us?
Well, I mean, there needs some funding, obviously, to do those upgrades to the tracks and raise them public awareness, put up signage, that sort of thing. And permission, obviously, is key to I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Some of it is on dock land, some of it I'm not sure of the ownership of the land.
Thank you.
Through the chair,
Councillor Johnson.
just,
Johnson.
I just like to, clarify a couple of things. So I've been in touch, Daniel and I've been in touch quite a bit over this. I think this is a spectacular presentation. I'd like to thank you, Daniel, for all the hard work you put in. It's an absolute, I mean, it's all there. It's an absolute gift. Like you've done all the work, you've done all the research, given a great presentation. And Daniel's quite right. There's nearly all those tracks are on dock land, and the very start of them is on TCDC Road Reserve. So there would be liaison between TCDC and dock to get those tracks done. But that first track, which is nearly all there, except for the little part across the ridge, which is still walkable, it's just got a few, super easy, I think, to do, and a real, would be a great start to the project. And I think Daniel's given us a real, as I say, we'll gift. I've been in touch with Karen Ismay at Dock. She's at the moment trying to arrange a meeting, just coincidentally, with Greg Leslie from Thames Walking Group, who are also looking at tracks, but Daniel's really done all the grunt work here. So, it's
Thank you. Like, gently remind you, we're here for clarification.
I was clarifying that.
No, not adding to the story.
Okay.
Okay, but if I ask you one question, which one would you focus on? You've got to pick one out of those.
Well, as I said, I think it's best to start with something simple. So the ones I start with the simplest, I think would be the one about monetary, because it'd be a very easy thing to do. And could be done very quickly, I would have thought. The others would need more time and costs involved to upgrade.
So those other examples you showed us, are they over dock land or are they like Port Hills and Christchurch? Is that?
No, they're not all dock land. Some of them might be partly on dock land. I'm not sure of the ownership. I haven't got access to those.
I think the board would have to look seriously at that in terms of what we can do over dock land and the requirements. Dock has quite a requirement. Yes.
Yes, so just a question through the chair there. So those other walkways, do they have like trusts or community groups or something like that who look after them and receive funding and are kind of responsible for them, or are they some of them just council?
To be honest, I don't know.
Right.
I imagine it's a mix of all sorts. I know in Tiara there's community groups that have done some of those straight near the town. And they're not on the mountain of the threats.
Right.
Yeah, I imagine it's a whole mix of options.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniel. I think you could mark it out as green medicine tracks. Healthy people, healthy lives, green medicine. And thank you very much for your presentation. It did look very good.
Thank you.
So next person is Greg Hampton, who is well versed in being in this chamber, I think. In another role.
Thank you, Chair.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair, elected members and staff. I'm here to talk about 4 topics this morning. The first one, the Kauranga Valley Cycle Trail Project. I'm here representing the Kauranga Valley Cycle Trail Advocacy Group. The other members were unavailable to present today. So, but firstly, congratulations to all elected members for being elected to represent the community. So the Kauranga Valley Cycle Trail Advocacy Group was formed a couple of years ago, really for a number of reasons, basically the potential of cycle trails on the Kauranga Valley, but also very importantly to address safety issues on Peninsula Road. I think it's really worthwhile to keep that in the front of mind. So the history of this project, or first, can I say, the concept is for a 7.5 kilometre cycle trail route heading east from the booms on Tauranga Valley Road at Parawai to Rennie's Access Road forward, and then returning via Maramarai Road to join State Highway 25. The group accepts that this project would likely be completed in stages. The most important stage is the first stage from Thames to the Swimbridge, which is a highly used swimming destination for Thames children, and that road is highly used through summer. There is no off-road trail at all. People bike and kids walk that trail, that road through summer to get to that swimming pool. That's the proposed stage one. So the history of the project, sorry, I'll have to go backwards. The benefits: connecting communities, Tauranga Valley to Thames, road safety, improving commuting to schools, work and township, greater visitor attraction driving economic development in Thames. The cycle trail could connect all the way to the Dock Visitor Centre, which would clearly be of great economic benefit and a real asset to the Hauraki Rail Trail. This is a council approved project and was funded in the last 10-year plan. So it was funded for a scoping feasibility study to be carried out, and that has been carried out and was presented to the board in December last year. Please look up the report. It's by the group LMC, and it's very glowing of the potential of the report and benefits, and also how to move forward on it. The group last presented to the community board in August, I think, and we're promised a meeting with the roading manager to see how we could progress the project. That meeting was cancelled, since been cancelled, and you'll see in your action list today, there's a note saying that council does not have the resources to carry on the project at this point in time. And I highlight that the project has never been back to elected members for their consideration of prioritising. So I really want to highlight the LMC report recommendation. The very first recommendation is formation of a governance group. Our group has been seeking to get involved in this project for 10 years and has been advocating to do that. How can we do that for a couple of years? And we seem to hit roadblocks. So what I'm here to advise you today is that we have drafted correspondence to the board, and we will be seeking to have a meeting with the board to update you on the project and seek a way forward. And our recommendation will be to set up a project group. This is a council approved project and has been funded to the tune of $50,000. The report has been delivered and it's hit a roadblock, and we really want to get past that. So that's my first comment.
And that's your 5 minutes.
Is it really? Okay.
Fortunately, so you can come back.
That was the most important one.
Three more meetings, each meeting another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Please show a topic.
Thank you, Chair.
Otherwise, if you advise us, we may be able to extend the time. This won't be the data. So any questions of the Hampton, please?
Mr. Chair, please, Greg, did you get any notification as to why that meeting was cancelled?
Yes, the reason is on your action list today, which is lack of resources. Yeah.
So that's
To carry on, which is, I guess, the most concerning thing is that we've hit this roadblock where the answer that we got, the meeting was cancelled and that there are not sufficient staff resources because of all of the staff resources. Yeah. So, I mean, my suggestion would be that governance group suggested by LMC could be made up of our group members and representatives of the Thames Community Board, therefore requiring no staff time, and that way we are connecting community with the elected members to be able to progress the project.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair. Greg, in that very first meeting that we had with Pinnacles and Ed and you were there and myself, some of the concerns were raised about the safety of that corner, the swing bridge corner, and that putting a cycle would alleviate the danger to pedestrians and users of that. Did anything happen? Was that carried through?
No, I don't believe we've had some correspondence from the roading manager with some ideas that I would have to say are fairly left field around sharing of the road, one lane direction sharing.
Because there was talk of a temporary speed limit change to that corner as well.
Yeah, I think there's some really easy wins that can be made around the swimming hole, such as bollarding off the area prior to the narrowing. Like cars will naturally park there before, but I think that should be bollarded off because just around the corner there is the big car park across from the toilets.
Yeah.
That would then allow a place for people to arrive on bicycles and park bicycles and access the pools safely. So I think that's lots of, and you have a group here who is willing and enthusiastic to help make this happen. So we're certainly not expecting staff to drive everything, but we do think it's naturally a council-led project. The LMC report suggested the same. And I think the LMC suggestion of a governance group, which includes community, either elected members and staff and the advocacy group members so that we can work together. We can access external funding that council cannot access. That's the benefit of having community groups involved in these types of projects. So we simply want to work with council to advance this project. And at the moment, we're hitting roadblocks and we're not getting anywhere.
Very much. Did I hear you correctly? You say there's a budget of $50,000?
So $50,000 was the original budget. The LMC report has been delivered and I'm not sure how much of that $50,000 remains. In discussion with infrastructure manager Bruce previously suggested that if there was money left over, it would be carried over. So
another good news.
Sorry?
You want another good news? Nothing. Nothing left. Okay.
Well, I'll leave you to judge whether you got $50,000 worth of value in relation to the report. I will say it is a good report, but it would surprise me if the report cost $50,000.
Okay, so it's new to many of us here, so we'll simply digest it, have a look at it. We're not going to make any promises, of course, as you can appreciate. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for your time, and I wish you a positive and progressive turn.
Seriously, seriously, wishing you. Be careful.
Thanks. Thank you.
Is it, what is it, are you speaking or observing? I've got two notes down here. Speaking, thank you. What are you speaking about today?
I've come as a ratepayer and I go to all the community board meetings, have done for 18 months or so. And I'd just like to welcome our new community board and congratulate you all being voted in by the ratepayers and the people of the community. I'd just like to remind you that people that have been before you have done their best, and I welcome back Robin, Martin and Peter. It's wonderful to see that they're back here with the knowledge and the experience and what they've put into our community. I'm here as a person, not as for any other agenda whatsoever, because I'm really concerned about what happens in our community, especially when it comes to the elderly and people with disabilities, etc. I at times see things happening and I will then come and speak about them, because there are various things which I will come back next meeting that have not been done because staff just, they pass it off, it goes onto the agenda to be done, and then next thing you know, it's been closed. I ask, why is it closed? It's been finished, but that's another day. Congratulations, welcome to our very important role that you have. Remember, you're here solely to represent the people that voted you here and to make sure that what happens in our community is to the benefit of all, not just for your own agendas. But I don't mean in any shape or form rudely, but just saying to you that we do appreciate what you bring to our community. And thank you and congratulations for you being the chair. You've got yourselves one very wise L at the head there, and hope his chickle learned from it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. What else can I say after that?
There's no questions.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay. So can I have a move and a second, please, to, and the motion will be to receive the motion and that the Thames Community Board receive Althea Baker, Caroline McKenzie, Daniel Miller, Greg Hampton, Ruth Effort as speakers in the public forum and include any tabled material. I don't think we had any material. Oh, yes, we did. Sorry. We did. Do I have a mover, please? Yeah. Board Member Kishan, and Board Member Johnson. Okay. Any discussion on the matter? If I put the motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
So I'm just going to clarification question. Here, the presentation from Daniel, will that because that was sent through, will that automatically be? It'll be. Terrific. Thank you.
Oh, I just waiting for a councillor Rebel to carry. Right.
Can I request the chair behave?
Second part?
Can I request that the chair behave?
You can. You can raise it early on. You can raise a point of order, but the chair's got you come down on the councillor at some stage. So, item 1.7, items not on the agenda. Does anybody have any items they wish to discuss that are not on the agenda for today, please? None come through. Okay. Well, no came through. We don't have to do anything. Move on. Next one, 1.8. Conflict of interest. Does any member around this table have a conflict of interest, please? As per the agenda for today, it's a bit late down the agenda to be asking for conflict of interest.
Mr. Chair, I have a conflict of interest with item 4.1.
Sorry?
I have a conflict of interest with item 4.1, the
Yes.
ownership of two sculptures and approval.
Understand that.
So I'll have to step back.
Nobody else? Thank you. Move on to 2.1. So, can I have a mover and a second, please, to receive the motion of the Thames Community Board CAPEX Work Programme 2022-23 and other operational matters updates, information updates. Do we have a mover, Chair, please?
Yep.
Thank you. Board Member McKenzie, can we have a second, please? Councillor Rebel. Welcome, Mr. Hinton. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good morning, board. So yes, I'm Bruce Hinston, Group Manager for Operations. Normally Andrew Bowden would be presenting this report, Project Delivery Manager, but Andrew's not able to be here, so I've jumped in to do that for him, so go easy on me. What I'd say is, just to give you a little bit of context around this, particularly for any new board members, is obviously we do one of these program reports every meeting for the board to let you know how things are going on the projects, particularly the local projects, which are the ones that you have a bit more control and oversight of, rather than the bigger district projects. So there's quite a major detail in here. We've tried to refine this report over time to provide the information that we believe is useful for board members, and we've received feedback on various boards. So we do these for each board. So yes, I'm happy to run through those comments to answer any questions. I'm not going to sit here and read them all out. What I would say is that
overall, we're proceeding, not too bad. We've really got some challenges on our hands, along with everyone else in the country and the world, around supply chain disruption, cost escalations and labour shortages. So that's really testing us. But the team are working hard to try and get things moving. So happy to take any questions, and I'll do my best to answer. If I don't know, to go away and get the answer and come back to the board.
This is broken into two parts. I see there's teams and districts. on our
Yes.
Program.
Correct. So through the chair, yeah. So generally it's the board projects.
Yeah.
But if there's particular interest of the board for some of the district projects, which we do have, we have added those projects on. And then right at the end, you'll see there's a section which is really around operational type of programs. And usually your area manager, Rose, would provide the updates in that space in conjunction with people on my team often.
Has any member of Thames Community Board got a question? Councillor Rebel.
So thank you for the report, Bruce, with lots of green on it, which is great. Wait, oh, yeah. So the World War I monument, so the path up there is pretty fractured and gaps in it, etc. Inappropriate for wheelchairs and probably dodgy even just for walking in this trip. Is that, so this thing here is assessing geotechnical, whatever it is that part of a bigger project to actually, is that stage one of a project to remediate all that?
Yeah, so through the chair, from recollection, and Derek over here, Bucks and Open Spaces Manager might provide more information than I will, most likely he will actually. From memory, we had these as a couple of different projects, and one was the initial small part, and there was a second stage. And so obviously during the prioritisation of capital programs going through the long-term plan, decisions were made around both those projects and around the time. And obviously, as you've noted, the disability aspects and the associated geotechnical issues were the highest priority. And so that was the work that we were trying to get underway. I did go and get a bit more of an update on this one this morning. Unfortunately for me, but fortunately for our landscape architect, she's overseas at the moment, so I couldn't give any more details. So, I don't know, Derek, put you on the spot, Derek, whether you've got anything additional to add to that. If not, that's fine. I can come back to the board.
No.
Okay. No problem. So what I'll do is I'll go away and get a bit more detail, and I'll come back to the board.
Bruce, through the chair, just clarifying the geotechnic investigation or report that's coming is about the disability access. That's what the geotech.
I think the assessment will be for the whole,
including mine.
I imagine so. It'll be around ground conditions. So yeah, principally, we obviously do have issues. I haven't been up there for a long time, I have to confess, but I do recall the path is slowly moving downhill. Right. This happens with a lot of things on hills. It's quite a cracky way to the bottom. So yes, so it is about making sure that, okay, how do we deal with the path, but also making sure that the monument's not heading down the hill as well. So yeah, so I'll get more detail and I'll come back to the board on that.
Councillor Rodney.
Yeah, and just while also talking about the World War I monument, and this could be my fault because I can't remember I raised it correctly or just had a conversation with Bruce or Derek about it, but just sort of thinking about the disability aspect of it, but not around access, but the quite iconic view of the town from that end of it when you look down on the town. I suspect, well, I mean, from a car or from a wheelchair or mobility scooter, there's like a totara hedge that's sort of been planted in the front.
Right.
And I mean, that's just going to get taller and obstructed more and more. But I can't remember if I raised that with you folks, or if I should do it separately.
Yeah, so we can look at that. We've got Matt in the room as well, obviously, our officer, parks officer for this area. So that's something that I'm sure between myself, Derek, and Matt, we'll work through and have a look at that situation and take a point on, obscuring the view and making sure that it might be a maintenance issue that we maintain it at a certain point to maintain those views.
And apologies if that's outside the scope of the report.
Just another couple of questions. On a different bit. So the footpath.
I'm just thinking, because we can start talking from down here, maybe we should go through. I'll just read them out and then the headings, and then we can comment on it, go through the thing, because the past further down one day. Do you mind?
Cool.
Right, so after that, there's a park playground and changing places. Which I learned the swim coordinators organising that. That's a $1.5 million project. And just because I'm not been involved in it, I think I said it's deferred. The depreciation costs and decision until the Thames Community Board has been input. So I just want to ask where we was at.
That is something that does need to come back to the board. So that decision was made just before the elections at council. And the decision around that was principally in that this very generous gift for the Thames community, this whole facility, if this gift wasn't coming to the Thames community, it's unlikely that the Thames as a board would be able to fund an upgrade of that size. So the question is, obviously depreciation is to put money aside to replace an asset with the equivalent asset. And so where we got to with the depreciation is obviously depreciation is quite a high cost. So the decision that the board will need to kind of work its way through with staff assistance is, do we fund for the replacement of an asset that's so large and gifted? Because at the end of it, is it feasible that Thames will replace it with the same equally large asset? Or do we look at a different arrangement where we maybe part fund depreciation and say, look, you know, if there's not another amazing donor at that time, we'll build something, but it won't be as.
The depreciation over 30 years, is it?
I don't know what the asset life is for those subsequent assets off some of my head. Derek might know, obviously for all the waters assets, and they obviously have a lot longer life, but obviously past facilities, you don't get an idea of. We got the spot again, Derek, about the life span of that playground facility.
Around about 25 years.
Yeah, so if you look at that, it's 4% of the value per year appreciation. So that's 25 years. So that's quite a lot of money, and it's operational money. It's obvious, so it goes straight on the rates. So it's quite a high cost.
Councillor Rodney.
Yeah, and I seem to remember that in the brief discussion we had, which I think was the last meeting of the council before election, was that for things like, yes, it's fine to say, okay, well, we're going to depreciate that at full rate, put it on the Thames ratepayer, and then at the end of the 25 years, we'll have however many millions are needed to replace it. But with something like a playground, you know, if the chains on the swing need replacing, then they'll get done. If the bark underneath the soft ball area needs replacing, that'll get done. So it's kind of like after 20 or 25 years, that playground should actually still be in really good condition if we've been maintaining it. The idea that we would then pull it all out, and I mean, and we're not pulling all the playground out that's here. Some of it is going to be reused because some of it's extremely long life. So I guess that could be part of the discussion about whether we fund that.
Yeah, I mean, through the chair, we definitely be operating and maintaining the playground, you know, the new one. So we'll continue to implement it. So you're right. Materials that do need to be replaced and renewed periodically, that maybe like chains or cables or whatever, that will happen. But I think you do have to look at it and say at the end of a period, there will be large structural elements that will need to be renewed, and that's the kind of stuff that you depreciate it for. So.
Okay. Board manager, do we actually, will this board get a report on this? Because this is
through the chair, yes, there will be a report coming to the board regarding.
Yeah, such as, is it in the right place? Or has that been decided?
That's kind of already that's already moved on from there. I think we've moved further ahead than where that question would be at. But the reports to the board will be obviously more details as things come up, but also particularly around this depreciation issue and consideration of that.
Through the chair,
I think do the other board members want to know more about it, or?
I would like to, I think that'd be great, but like to be brought up to speed on this.
Yeah, but this is a big project.
Yeah, I think it's true.
It's a huge project, like you know.
Huge project.
Just through the chair, just to confirm the language. So a workshop is already something in the LGA. So this would be an informal briefing at one of our community networking days. So
Well,
maybe
we don't matter, doesn't matter how you do it, we just like to know about it, please.
Yep.
In plain English.
Yep.
For the older ones.
And there'll be a number of briefings that the board will want to receive. So at a later date, Rose will prioritise those with you and make those arrangements.
Yeah. Probably second item after this would probably would be wise for board to brief on too. So car park reseals, it's through negotiate, oh sorry.
What's asphalt concrete?
Hot mix, so yeah, like blacktop or hot mix or asphalt.
Okay,
Smooth, yeah, smooth.
right, but it's called concrete.
It's just, that's a typical road, it's AC, yeah, so.
Okay,
That's the same as Collins Street is now.
Yeah,
learn something every day. on
yeah,
community.
apologies, normally, if I review these, I'll go through and try and colour some of the non-plain English language. But the team and engineers love to like slip the acronyms and the technical terms in there, so.
Okay, the next one is the Collins Street infrastructure upgrade. And everybody would have seen all the markings on around Collins Street on all the intersections. I'm in the dark about exactly as to what is supposed to be happening down there. Does that sort of come into another workshop situation?
Through the chair, yep, more than happy, picking up, following from Dean's comment, happy to bring information like that to a briefing or a workshop board and run through that, because obviously there are a number of projects that are in train, and so very valid point for anyone who's new to the Thames Community Board this term. There's information we need to be passing on and bringing up to speed on.
Because you talk about upgrades to the roads, stormwater, water and wastewater, and I'm not aware of any wastewater actually in Collins Street, but you must have talked about the side street.
Yeah, there are some, pretty sure there are some lines wastewater in the main street, but we'll pick up the side streets going back 50 kind of metres back from the intersection as well. That's what the project includes.
And I guess that, I don't know when the previous board discussed it, but is there any talk about what they're going to do with Collins Street afterwards, or just go reinstate it as it is, or make provision for a more user-friendly street? Is there any discussion about that?
Yeah, so through the chair, the previous board were very keen to try and, obviously leverage off this infrastructure straightforward renewal project to do something better and, look upgrading the above ground surface. Obviously, that's subject to, the board financials and making sure they can kind of manage it on the Thames rate. Whereas these activities are district activities, so renewal of all those assets. So definitely something that we can talk further about at a briefing, and as a board, you guys will make some decisions or have desires.
And I may have already asked this question. Are the footpaths getting? Is there stuff underneath the footpaths as well as the main road?
Yeah, there will be stuff.
So it is shop to shop.
Yeah, there's
okay.
Shop front to shop front. Yeah. Through the chair, the infrastructure's in a lot of different locations, so it's.
But we now know.
I wouldn't say it's spider's web, but yeah, there's stuff all over the place. Hence why this work was done. Old towns grow up over time, pipes get added, and things are kind of in places that if you were doing it, from fresh, you wouldn't put them in those locations. So
To be expected.
Yes.
Just as an aside, I can recall laying those cobblestones down there, and Saturday morning was a fog kit, took all the asphalt out, started laying the cobblestone. No road closures, no nothing, no cones, nothing. So I think it's changed every day.
Yeah.
All right.
Adrian.
Oh, sorry.
Through the chair. While we talking the road thing, if we have a couple of more steep bump,
speed bumps.
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be good, because nighttime, younger ones, basically, they speeds from that end by the pizza place to the south, and they can be risky for some people.
Yeah, no, through the chair, these as part of that project, once we kind of move forwards on what we're going to do above ground, that will definitely be considerations. So there's different ways of putting in, to use the technical term, traffic calming measures. So whether that is raised sections like we have on the crossings, whether it's making a bit of a like a slight chicane or something, narrowing the carriageway down to a narrower width, having no parking in certain sections. Definitely part of the considerations around traffic calming measures, yeah.
But we will hear more
Yes.
as a board.
Yeah, and through the chair, none of that's, been decided or designed or anything. That's much further down the path, and that's something that the board will obviously and understandably want to get right involved in and have a decision making.
We've got 7 experts sitting around here. Sorry, there's one experts now wants to talk.
Really. Forgive me, Bruce, I remember in the long-term plan, we discussed the water infrastructure and obviously that went in as a separate line item.
Yes.
And then there was a lot of discussion, and I can't remember exactly where we landed about funding for an upgrade, which obviously come out of the Thames, right? Can you remind me where we landed with that? There is money in the LTP to do it?
Can't recall, there's money further down, it's either money quite a bit further down, a
Yes.
few years away, or it was in that nice to have list and therefore it wasn't in there,
I
but
can't remember either.
yeah, I can't recall, apologies, but if it's in the nice to have list, it's kind of sitting in behind it, for consideration of any future planning process like annual plan or future long-term plans, and now bring it back in and go, we actually do want to do this, we've looked at what we can afford and we want to go ahead with that and try and make something a lot better while we're in the area.
Thank you.
So, to the question, if 3 waters come in,
Yeah.
are we just to sit and wait and see what happens 3 waters, or we're going to spec this up and do it ourselves?
So through the chair, we want to keep moving. I guess our approach is, well, one, we've been instructed by the government, keep moving, don't just suddenly pause and not do anything. But also just keep on moving. And the reality is we want to keep on moving because when 3 waters happens in 2024, the more progress we are with our projects in our district and our community board areas, the better chance they have of continuing on. If we've actually paused things, we can have a humongous list of priorities. It's going to be very hard for us to kind of get back into that priority list when they're looking at Hamilton, Tauranga, New Plymouth, all those big sectors. So yeah, so my advice is just carry on.
Footpath rehabilitation. Councillor Rebel.
At our last community board meeting, it was requested of staff to have a schedule of footpaths to be fixed. In the action items on page 128, that matter is closed because it was deemed that all that we would be getting would be a report of what's happened.
Right.
Because remediation happens based on request. What this says is there's going to be a plan. I find those two things in conflict.
Yeah, so through the chair, possibly the language that my team have used isn't the best. What I would say is there'll be a program, but the decision on what footpaths are rehabilitated is based solely on condition. So it'll either be my team or our contractors or consultants identifying faults, or people lodging faults, RFSs. So they'll say, if a trip hazard here on Old Street, we'll go and have a look at it and go, yes, it is a trip hazard added to the program. So there'll be a program built up of all the sites that need to be worked on, as opposed to a program that comes to the board and then the board say, well, this is what we'd like to prioritise. So I think it's possibly, that's where like I say, my team might not have communicated that quite.
So my question on that then is there must be an existing program that you've got, not the one that we're needing to approve, but an existing program saying, so there's just a conflict now between that and the action item on page 128, which says we don't have a program, we can only talk historically.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll go and have a relook at that.
Sure.
The wording, and I'll also look at the program and see if there's something we can bring and say, this is what we're actually trying to get, the action schedule. This is what we're trying to get done this year. So
Thank you.
Guys know.
I just noticed the word walk over there. Is there any thought given to the fact that the community board may have some input and board members, councillors tell you about paths that should be, that they feel that should be repaired?
Yeah, I mean, if it's through the chair, if there's any information that board members have, and obviously you're all community members, you're out and about, so if there's any information you have, I'm definitely happy for you to feed that back to us to get added into the mix.
Excellent, thank you.
Not right now.
No. Street light renewals. Anybody got anything? Does the council have a responsibility for underneath the verandas? I believe that the verandas come out under council footpath. Do you have a responsibility for under-branded lighting?
Through the chair, no, not that I'm aware of. The verandas are the responsibility of the shop owners, even though they are hanging out over off the road reserve.
Right.
Excuse me, Adrian. Is there any possibility of, when you're looking at over surface stuff that part of the remediation policy, is there any possibility of putting in extra cabling and leading that back and getting the under veranda lights onto?
Yeah, possibly. I think
Moving on to the street lighting program.
Yeah, through the chair, I think that definitely would be something to consider at the time. So I think again, we take some advice from landscape architects and designers of those urban planners about what would be good features to build in. Or
yeah, I think while you've got the opportunity when you're digging trenches or trusting cables, I mean, good.
Always good to think ahead and get some ducks in, even if we don't.
Yeah, get cables in. So.
Councillor Rodney.
Yeah, just through the chair, I think that didn't all those street lights used to be on the street lighting system. So when the street lights came on, all the veranda lights came on, and now I think they're all off that and they're all just incorporated into the property owners' meter boards. So if you then went back again, I'm not saying you shouldn't.
All the property owners in 1991 bought a little unit that went on to their thing, cost $110, went onto their switchboard. And when the street lights came on, they triggered Manitoki up there. When they come on Manitoki, the under-branded lighting came on, and when the under-branded lighting, when the street lights went, it used to be 2 o'clock. When the street lights went off 2 o'clock, so the under-branded lighting gone. But it's quite a problem in this town, and it's not the thing, but the darkness underneath those verandas must become a unpaid health and safety issue.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether the responsibility must be an overlap with responsibility of council to ensure the footpaths belong to them are safe to be used at night time. How you achieve it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll give you some advice.
Yeah, it's always good to receive advice through the chair. Thank you.
It's free from us.
Is it? Okay, very good.
All right, Tokyo Valley Road. Everybody would have seen, everybody going south would have seen everything happening at Tokyo Valley Road. That's quite interesting because that's part of Wellington and part district.
Yeah.
There's some hefty budgets there, huge budget.
Yeah, big budgets, yeah. Yeah. I think it's on memory, it's through the chair, it's all district, so it's all the district activities, so.
Yeah. Excellent.
Some of it's, I think you're right, some is like all the subjects.
Or just this one fits under the community lighting, so I'm not too sure it's $4 million for that. So airfield. Any questions for airfield? Furniture fittings. Okay. So one the boat ramp. That's something stuff about it in I think. Urban Marine, I will see that on 29th, correct? So and then again, district stormwater, Coast Valley Road.
Can I just on Cookville Marine?
Sorry, yeah.
So we've got a good report in there from Urban, whatever they are, Urban Solutions. My understanding is with the funding is that currently the community board, our community board is on the hook for any funding the government kind of doesn't come to the party with. Does that mean we are also on the hook for if there continues to be cost escalation that we as a community board, i.e. our ratepayers, will therefore be needing to fund further cost escalation?
Through the chair, there's a sizable contingency built into the project, so I think there's 20% built in, which is a decent sized contingency to that type of project. So what we'll do is, in conjunction with the consultants, Urban Solutions who are helping us, we're meeting monthly on that project and we're monitoring that contingency as we go on. So, we're confident at this stage we can contain it all within the contingency and won't have to come back to the board. But if something did happen and there was some huge cost escalations that we needed to cover, we would definitely be going back to MB and trying to get additional funding from them based on, it's outside of the hands, it's escalations or unforeseen conditions. So we definitely be pushing pretty hard to avoid anything kind of falling back on it. That would be the last option, I would say.
Thank you.
We hope. The biggest relief is it's not actually a district thing and it falls back on Thames ratepayers. But the area of benefit is bigger than Thames.
Yes, so through the chair, obviously that comes down to the activity structures and how the funding is done, which is the long-term plan discussion around coastal harbours, wharves, coastal facilities. They're currently locally based funding. Obviously there's an alternative view that could be district funded, such as water and roading and solid waste. That would be a discussion that you want to have at the long-term plan time.
Valley Road. Oh no, sorry. Thames treatment plant upgrade. That's always an interesting one. How long ago since it was last breached?
Oh, I did see that actually. I was having a chat with the team a couple of weeks ago about when we last did the
2008.
It was around about then, yeah, something, yeah, would have been, yeah.
Cost $1 million.
2007, 2008, something like that, yeah.
Cost $1 million at the time. How much longer will we be allowed to send treated water out to the Waihao River, do you think?
Through the chair, hard to say, but it's definitely, if you're building a plant now, you wouldn't be sending it out there. So there will be a finite life, I would say, of that being permitted, under the consent. Effectively, I can't recall the consent duration off the top of my head. But I would say there's a couple of things. One is the discharge into the Waihao, which obviously is itself quite polluted and very high sediment loads. So the material going in from the wastewater plant actually isn't the receiving environment. It's not like we're talking about a pristine receiving environment. But so there's discharge. But the other factor is that if we want Thames to grow, we need to increase the size of the wastewater plant. We've got some capacity in it, obviously, for a small amount of growth. But if we really want to do big growth, we need a new plant. If you're going to do a new plant, you have to build to current standards, which would mean a lot of concrete, a lot of mechanical equipment. You wouldn't build that down there on that very soft marine mud. So what you'd be faced with is you're faced with a new site, totally new plant, and then you dispose of it. You would quite likely you try and get some discharge to land rather than going straight to water. But those are some big conversations and big discussions that we'll need to work through as a community and a district. So not a very short answer to your short question. Apologies.
As a left field question, So then back to Tokyo Valley Road again. Services. I just turned over the page to sub-regional facilities, and we're going to have a workshop on that. Oh, you're going to do that quite painful.
If you come in here and say.
Just carry on from Ruth on the next page of your agenda. Okay, so the first item is the Thames Sub-Regional Aquatic Facilities Project and the Thames Sports Partnership Project. You'll recall that, some of you will recall that the needs assessment for those two projects was adopted on the 28th of September by the Thames Community Board and 10th of October by the council. So we're continuing on with our inquiry. We started the feasibility stage and we'll give you a presentation on the needs assessments and at a briefing. This will be December. The next item is the Thames and Surround Spatial Plan. So Mitchell King leads this piece of work. And as part of your introduction, he will do an overview of that plan next week. Again, Amon, Shoreline Management Plan, Amon Martin is the lead, and he will do an introduction to the Thames, specifically in Thames, next week as part of your induction. One of the projects in this year's annual plan is the removal of the skate park from Taipei Park. And our Parks Officer, Matthew Allnut, has been working on planning of that over the last month or so. And we engaged with Ngāti Maru in terms of details like reinstatement.
Sorry, I just took me ahead of the agenda. Sorry, Councillor Riddle.
Can I just check that mic's on?
Can I just ask a question about, so the land that that skate park is on is council land?
Yes, correct.
And I guess I'm asking the question, is it part of the settlement or not?
No, no.
Okay, so the responsibility for keeping it neat will remain with council. The
That's
mowing,
correct.
once the skate park's gone, council mow. Okay, cool.
That's correct. So Ngāti Maru has indicated to date that their preference would be that it's just reinstated in grass.
Yes, yeah. And then Derek has to mow it.
The Parks team will advise on the details around that in terms of what they use for parks reinstatement.
Board member, Kingsley.
Sorry, I don't know much about this, but is that the skate park by the swimming pool?
Yes.
Why is it getting removed?
So there has been an agreement that the park will be transferred to Ngāti Maru in the future.
Yeah, okay.
And on the parks, the skate park, and so council budgeted as part of this year's annual plan as the first step towards that, to remove the skate park.
So that's not part of the thing with the pool?
The new pool?
Well, the old pool, you know how there's like, Ngāti Maru own the old pool grass or whatever where it is. That skate park is council land.
Correct, that's correct.
But we're going to give it to Ngāti Maru, is that what?
The intention is to, has been signalled to transfer the Taipei Park, which includes the swimming pool, part of the larger piece of land which the swimming pool is on.
Yeah.
And the area the skate park is located on.
Do the residents know that that's getting removed? Is that something that?
So that the annual plan was consulted on.
Yeah. So if they've read,
earlier this year.
if they've read the annual plan.
If they haven't.
So, through the chair, sorry, short answer would be no, they probably don't know, because not many people read the annual plan.
No, yeah.
Really into it, just to be.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that before we get in there and start taking diggers in there, ripping stuff out, we'll do a really good communication plan on how we're going to communicate that around the reasons of the, to try and help people understand why it's happening.
Okay.
Because it's potential for, it's a sensitive, it could be a sensitive issue. So I think that just puts more emphasis on us as staff to make sure we're communicating well with the community and increasing their level of understanding about why we're doing it. It was always the plan when the new skate park was done down at Hauraki Park.
Yeah.
But I think it might have been financial pressures at the time, and also no big need to immediately get rid of that old skate park. But it has created, I suppose, an issue now. We've got the two.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we're going to take that one away, and if we don't do the job of communicating, we're going to like the heck you do. So
Yeah, so just to add to that, there is a project plan because the removal is a project.
Yeah.
And so liaising with our communications officer, Kate O'Malley, is part of that.
Sorry, so I'm a bit confused because I think your answer to Polly was the opposite of your answer to me.
How can we clarify?
So I thought I heard you say to Holly that the land where the Kauperi Park is going to be returned to Ngāti Maru. And when I asked that question, you said, no, it'll be staying with council and will remain council's responsibility.
Until it is returned. So the mowing will be our responsibility until it is transferred.
Okay. Right, okay, so maybe my original question wasn't clear. Once that whole area is returned to Ngāti Maru, it will then be Ngāti Maru's responsibility or jurisdiction or whatever they want to do with it. Okay.
And it is signalled in the reserve management plan that that is a council contingency.
Cool, thank you.
So yeah, that's okay. Councillor Sinclair.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess the pointy bit of the argument that you guys have both raised is that point of transfer of when, you know, how long it will be between when the skate park is removed and when the land is handed over, and that almost entirely depends on the new pool and the progression of that discussion. So I don't know if that helps you, Holly, and how you know we're not going to be mowing it forever.
Yeah.
But there will be a period of 2, 3, 4 years in which we will have responsibility until it is handed.
I think I'm just more concerned about the pushback from the community if we remove skate park. That's my concern. How do we?
Yes, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Because I have, you know, there are, especially the younger children.
Yeah.
That use it. The older ones tend to use the new skate park.
Personally, I take my children to the old one because I find that the new one can sometimes, there's just a little bit of, they don't feel comfortable skating at the new one. So I personally take them to the old one. So I think it's going to be a bit tough, actually.
Councillor no, board members are saying, sorry.
Just a small question. So we're spending 50 grand to remove this whole skateboard. Plus that land, we're gonna give it to the EV. What's the main purpose of doing that? Because end of the day, it's right to spend money.
Hauraki Park was originally an Ura park, and council acquired the land many years ago from the landowner at that time and constructed a swimming pool and a skate park. And so then the discussion more recently between council and Ngāti Maru has been that the land will be returned. So it's the area that the swimming pool's on and the skate park, but not the pump station.
So we have a couple of staff members who want to make comment.
Just 2 sentences because my name was mentioned. I work in communications and I was working with Rose about how to communicate. If you don't fully understand the issue, I'm really glad you raised it, Holly. Just a plea. If you speak up, I know it's very, I know it's, you know, often not to you, Holly, as people their first time speaking, but we're not just speaking to this group, you're speaking to many who have to write it up for the week and wrap up. Our members of the public, and just so Rose, I was trying to go speak up. I couldn't hear. Rob, I'm having trouble hearing. And just a plea, that's all, guys. And there'll be people with various levels of hearing. And that's all. Thank you.
Like selective hearing, yeah.
No, not really. Just you know, as we get older, our hearing.
Just through the chair, my phone's not working as well as it should today. So in future meetings, that will be on and you'll be able to look at this with this.
It's Dean, is it?
It is.
Just reading the name for long distance students. Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, just for this year, I think some of it's already been covered by Rose. The site is an Urapa, and so that's why the comments on the reserve management plan around that. But just to answer or to clarify Peter's question earlier, so it's not part of the settlement with Ngāti Maru and the Crown. It's part of the 1877 ongoing discussions.
Right.
So that's the difference there.
Thank you.
And these are all things that we're able to talk to the board about at a later date in a greater detail. We're not able to do justice in this type of forum.
Sure. It was foreshadowed years and years ago that pool would have to go. The board, it was a hardy annual, every board meeting, every council, Ngāti Maru virtually asked that that pool go. What is going, the skateboard rink was put in by a service club, and it used to be a roller skating thing that was put in by the JCs in the 60s. So that was never always a skateboard rink. It was for roller skating in the earlier days, and then it just morphed into that. I think where the trouble is going to arise, you'll notice on there, it's got rest in peace for somebody. I can see that group was quite active. And that boy was killed in a car accident, and that made me require a little bit of caution about how you approach that, because they went down there straight away and put that RIP, I forget the name that's on there. That may cause a little bit of facility, but it's certainly been foreshadowed for many years of it's going to happen. Okay. Any other?
We started with the Hauraki sculpture, and we were pleased to see that that was installed. And it's an interesting feature.
I've
heard a few interesting comments about it from people who didn't realise that it moved.
Who would like to have it moved?
No, who see it moving. It spins. And lastly, the installation of 2 sculptures on the Hauraki Rail Trail. So there was a report in this agenda about the ownership of the sculptures and approval to install.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just about the J. Hogan sculpture. Yeah, it's good to see now that there's a table in there, and that's got a short amount of concrete path, and there's wheelchair accessible. So that's great to see that. And then
have we
giving Derek the thumbs up.
Chair, I guess, have we expressed our thanks to Thames Public Art Trust for their work on getting the J. Hogan thing in place?
I don't know if we sent a letter or anything, but at the opening, the unveiling, Strat did say words on our behalf. Yes.
Will they feel appreciated, do you think?
I don't know.
Okay.
That was the feeling on the day that I
Right.
certainly
Okay.
felt
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. Thanks.
happy to be corrected.
Thank you. So you want to move the report, do you? Okay. We're actually got a move and a seconder.
Member McKenzie and Councillor Rickles.
Okay.
Just state the motion
The Thames Community Board receives Community Board CAPEX report program 2022-23 and other operational information updates. Report dated 31st October. It's already been moved. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, declared carried. Quick letter round.
Yeah, good one. Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hanson. I look forward to more meetings with you. Right. Annual plan, yeah. Oh, so the annual plan. Okay, so do I have a move and a second for the annual plan, please, that the Thames Community Board receive the 2023-2024 annual plan, report dated 31st October 2022. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Yes. Moved by Councillor Sinclair, seconded by Board Member Johnson. Floor is yours. Right?
Tēnā koutou, ko Kate Lewis, toko ingoa. Hello everyone, my name is Kate, work in our policy and planning team. Part of my job is to help coordinate the annual plan and our long-term plan processes. The report that you've got in your agenda provides quite a bit of detail about the upcoming annual plan for 23-24 financial year. If through the chair you would like me to, I can run through, just provide a bit of an outline about our annual plan and our long-term planning cycles, and a little bit about what we know about consultation coming up and the timeframes for that. So if through Mr. Chair, you're happy with that, I can do that.
Does anybody want to run through the annual plan?
It's an overview.
Big one?
It's an overview.
Yeah.
Yes, I think.
The question is asked of us, do we want to hear it?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So our long-term plan, our current long-term plan was adopted in late June last year and became effective from 1 July 2021. So that's the start of the financial year. It's covers 10 years and it is reviewed every 3 years. For its first year of the long-term plan, it includes the annual plan for that year. In years 2 and 3, we have to adopt an annual plan. That enables us to be quite flexible and update according to changing situations, interest rates, reflecting changes in our CAPEX programs from the previous year, that sort of thing. Where the changes are considered significantly different from what we had forecast in the long-term plan, then we have to do consultation. So in year 1 of our long-term plan, we had COVID lockdowns and supply chain delays and demand issues. So that certainly created a few changes were required for year 2. So year 2 of our long-term plan, which we adopted the annual plan, which is the current financial year we are in. So that took effect from the 1st of July 2022. So that reflected those changes, significant changes to our CAPEX program and also increases in inflation, significantly different from what we had forecast through the long-term plan. Year 3 of our long-term plan will kick off from 1 July 2023, which is what this report is about. And then in year 4, we're back to doing a new long-term plan. And that's the opportunity to really review all of our priorities, our budgets, our policies, our plans. There's a lot of work's already kicked off now. So that's also happening behind the scenes. Some of the things you've already discussed today, such as activity structures and how things are paid for, that's all part of that review process for the long-term plan. So this annual plan, or this coming annual plan for the next financial year, we've already identified the need to consult on changes in our solid waste activity around the curbside collection service, specifically how that is paid for. So that will be a matter of consultation. And then the other things we are yet to determine the significance of, but there'll likely be ongoing changes to update our CAPEX program, that sort of thing. There's a few other things listed in the report, but yeah, as I've said, we're not too sure how significant they will be as to how much information we'll need to include. So our annual plan will be taking further information to Council in the new year around the budgets and how they're looking and options for consultation. And the consultation's looking to commence in March, go through from March to April next year. If there's any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
So on the municipal building review, at the top of page 113, it says that the report was taken to Council, which Council resolved to proceed with the upgrade of the Thames Administration building and for staff to report back. I don't know that we resolved to proceed with that upgrade.
There was a report on that date. I understand since then there's been further suggestions, and I believe it was a matter of a workshop that Council had on the 8th of November fairly recently. So there'll be further updates to come on what direction and where that's going. I don't know all the details on it though.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Is further questions? Just some clarification on the increased new fees and charges for the new contract that comes in September next year for rubbish collection, or one of a better word. The wheelie bins are presumably replacing the bags, is that correct? So you lost some stream of income, not selling bags to the public?
That's my understanding, yes.
So what do you think the increased cost is going to be for wheelie bin, and would it be on the rate demand as such, and those people who don't use wheelie bins and use an outside contractor, how are they going to be?
Yeah, so through the chair, my understanding is limited. I'm just trying to coordinate the information that we'll be consulting on, but my understanding is there are 2 likely options for consultation. One being it all being charged through the existing targeted rates, but they would need to increase. As you've said, there would no longer be that revenue collected through the rubbish bags. The collection service is already partly subsidised through the general rate, as well as some through the purchase of those blue bags. So that's one option. Another option is, I think it's coined, the phrase is pay as you throw. So where people would purchase a ticket that gets attached to the lid of the wheelie bin, and that is taken off each time the bin is emptied. So again, there would still be some general cover under a targeted rate, but there would be that additional fee and charge through a pay-as-you-throw option.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
To the chair, so we're combining recycling and solid waste together, that we're trying to do.
There will still be separate, so the existing wheelie bins that everybody has for recycling will remain. And then there will be additional, the proposal at this stage is for an additional solid waste pickup and an additional food caddy waste bin. And the glass, so the glass bin and the recycling bin that you currently have would remain as they are. But again, yeah, this will be brought back and discussed further at further meetings in a bit more detail.
Thank you.
No further questions? Thank you very much, Kate.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The most exciting topic. So, the Thames Community Board received the 2023-24 annual plan report dated 31st October 2022. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. When the chair stands up, everybody's supposed to get quiet. The chair's going to stand for the friend. I keep talking.
You need magnesium. Need to take some magnesium and help your train.
Thank you, doctor. Sorry. Right, item 4.1. Ownership of two sculptures approved to install on the Hauraki Rail Trail. Right, that's quite a long motion down there. So do we have somebody who wishes to move and second that motion on the water paper fees?
I'll move that. I'll second.
Moved by Councillor Rebel, seconded by Councillor Rodley. Okay. So, you leading that discussion?
So I'd just like to introduce Matthew Ulnut.
Oh, can you just please note that Board Member Johnson clear conflict of interest in this and left the table.
So Matthew's our Parks and Facilities Officer and works in Derek Thompson's team.
Hi everyone, I want to say hello, worked with a few of you before, but yeah, it's nice to meet you all. Look forward to working with you in the future.
The purpose of this report, item 4.1, is to confirm ownership of two new sculptures proposed to be installed on the Hauraki Rail Trail and to improve the installation of those sculptures. In 2017, the Thames Public Art Trust ran a sculpture competition for the Thames community. Discussion with council staff at the time was along the lines of the place winners for that competition being installed on the Hauraki Rail Trail. The sculptures have names, as you can see from the report. They are called Interwoven and Miners' Gates. Thames Public Art Trust proceeded to arrange construction of Interwoven, and they have all the materials ready to go for construction of Miners' Gates. Today we have three options in regard to the ownership of the sculptures. Option one is that council will own and maintain the sculptures. The sculptures will be replaced at the end of the asset life, and this option is recommended. Option two is that the Thames Public Art Trust owns and maintains the sculptures. This option isn't recommended. And option three is we don't install the sculptures, and this is not recommended. Following the consideration of those options, should the board approve the suggested resolution, it's also recommended that Thames Public Art Trust be granted approval to install the two sculptures in accordance with attachment B. And it's also recommended that council approve an amount of $7,635 from 1st of July 2023 for ongoing costs, which include maintenance, insurance and depreciation.
So I just have a question around the 7,000, maintain, insure and depreciate. And the last bit of recommendation forward also says that they be replaced at the end of their asset life. So how's that been calculated? And when they say replace at the end of the asset life, like replaced with another
Line for line.
exactly the same of what was currently there
Could be, it could
before?
be, it depends, but just enabling there to be funding available to replace.
Because
I guess I'll just make a statement about sculptures. So we have installed a number of sculptures in the last few years, and it's really important that we consider the future. What happens when either the sculpture falls over or is at the end of its asset life? Now, for these significant sculptures and the location of them, if they're there for 25 years and they're taken away and we don't make provision to reinstate them or like with the like for like, as Matthew said, or something else, then there'll be nothing. So I guess if we don't want anything in their place, then we would adjust that rate.
So just a follow-up question. And yeah, and I get that in some ways this is like a little bit new for council, and that it's a group who said, hey, we're going to design and build these sculptures and install them and give them to council. But I just wonder, like, council wasn't, community board wasn't responsible for the building of them. So why are we factoring in money to replace them?
So once they're gifted, as per the suggested resolution, we would own them. We would take over the ownership. So therefore, we would depreciate them, insure them, maintain them.
I just see that, and I'm just going to keep asking questions here if it's all right. I guess I just see that a little bit different from a wastewater treatment plant where, yes, we absolutely have to replace it and it absolutely has to be done to a standard and we have to put money aside and we have no choice. And we're not going to get a community group to build a wastewater treatment plant for us. It'd be nice if they did. But I just struggle a little bit with this idea that a community organisation has gifted us these sculptures, but we're looking to maintain, insure and depreciate them. Yeah, and I just wonder what other community board members think, because it just sort of seems to me, well, sorry, I'll stop with that one.
So my comment on that is perhaps in the past, it hasn't been very clear. So the Jandal, we own, we maintain. The harmonic sculpture down at the Burke Street Park, we maintain. And when it fell over, when it got blown over, we had to make an insurance claim to have it reinstated. So we own it. And so in terms of the ownership, this report's proposing that council owns the sculptures on the Hauraki Rail Trail. There are some aspects to their maintenance that will require attention every year. Miners gates will require the bolts to be inspected once a year, and interwoven will need painting every couple of years just because of the location.
Yes, Board Member Kenzie.
If we decide to go with option 2, would there be some sort of schedule where they would have to ensure that they were going to do the maintenance on the art?
Probably speak to that, at least sort of from what I've been told, sort of the bolts would be a yearly check for the miners gate. That's basically your maintenance for that one. With the painting, like the other maintenance for interwoven, like I think just due to how close it is, I've sort of said that it probably needs to be painted every sort of 2 to 3 years. So we don't have a formal agreement with Thames Public Art Trust at this stage if we were to do that. But yeah, I just think.
Yeah, so in addition, I guess what would end up happening is that those costs would end up being pushed onto the community group. And the community group is focused on developing and facilitating and constructing public art. That's what they exist for. And so what we'd end up doing is pushing all that over to the community group to ensure, maintain, as Matt said, you know, paint. That those are fairly significant costs for a not-for-profit to spend every year for motor skates and every couple of years for painting.
And being quite exposed like that as well, I think you'll see with that as well, you could see the tagging and stuff on it, which then it probably is sort of comes towards us to sort of, if they are being gifted to us to sort of look after them and make sure that we don't have against the writing or that they're not being damaged by people who pass and things like that, that we do need to make sure that they are sort of fit for publish as well.
Okay, and follow on from that is, did they assume that the gifting to council would be accepted? Did they ever factor that into when they were doing the art competition and that sort of stuff? Like,
my understanding is that there was a discussion at the time, and that it's kind of, it's like an informal agreement that they would just be installed on the local trail. It's, yeah, an informal agreement at the time. So the trust proceeded with that in mind.
but that was back in 2017.
17, yeah, we
Yeah. So did they factor in the fact that there would be change of community board and councillors and things like that? Because we obviously have to make a decision today on what option we choose. So, yeah, obviously that should have been maybe a factor thought into, because
absolutely, it should be considered at the time. And we do have one other sculpture at the moment where the members from the previous community board and I have discussed, you know, there was no, at the time, it's really important that we think about the future. And so what happens to that sculpture at the end of the period, or, you know, the end of the asset's life? With the J. Hogan sculpture, that is all in place. So the Thames Public Art Trust knows what's going to happen, and we know what's going to happen with that one.
Yeah.
If I may be so bold through the chair to offer my opinion on, I would be really reluctant at this point to look the gift horse in the mouth. The rail trail is very popular. Diane Drummond tells us that the bit between Thames and Kopu is one of the most well-ridden parts of the trail. This will add a lot of value to the trail. It will add a lot of value to the people who use it. It will attract more people to use it and get outside. And we have heard this morning from the speaker that getting outside and enjoying your environment is a great way to improve health and mental health. $7,000 a year seems like a very small amount in order to get these installed. And so I'd be really wanting us to make a decision that accepted that and accepted the costs.
So I would like to reinforce everything that Robin has said to a point, in the sense that this is a fantastic amenity for our community, and I like the gift horse in the mouth kind of thing. I think it's absolutely mandatory that we need to maintain it, and absolutely mandatory we need to insure it. I'm not convinced that we need to provide for another sculpture in 25 years' time or 50 years' time, or whatever the depreciation period is on that. And I know in the grand scheme of things, $7,000 or whatever it is, but I think there's a principle there. And I guess I think this is the issue that Martin was raising, is do we actually need to depreciate that work of art over the whatever period it's been allocated? And you know, at the end of 25 years, it's rotten. It gets taken down. Maybe there's an opportunity for the Public Art Trust then to say, hey, well, let's do a new one.
Have another competition.
What?
We'll have another competition.
I just want to express my concern when we were doing our campaigns and stuff, multiple people talked about rates and rates going up and things like that. So that's my biggest concern. Obviously, if we go option A, it then lands on the rates payers, and I'm not too sure how many people would appreciate having their rates put up because of artwork. I think it's a great idea. I love the artwork. I think it's amazing. I think we need more of it, but I don't feel like it's fair on the rate payers that don't have a say on these situations, that they should feel like they should have to pop up for that when they already yelling at us from multiple different angles about the increase of rates. So that's my biggest concern. Yeah.
I agree with it's very important because ratepayer like to see where they spend their money, and I'm not sure they're going to be happy with it.
I guess my comment is that anything new we want to do, and if it involves a rate, we need to be really clear up front with our community groups whether they should proceed and take action and develop the item, build the item, whatever it is. Because otherwise what they do is they go ahead with the best intentions and with good faith, and they do it. So I guess my comment would be, is back in 2017, this group was led to believe that this outcome would happen. And here we are today in 2022 talking about it. So yeah, we need to all be mindful that anything we want to change, whereby there's a new asset, involves a new council asset, there is a cost.
I just have some clarification, please, about this, because in the motion here, we talk about the ownership of this sculpture and support. Recommend that council receives the gift. So why do we have to? It's not community board receiving the gift. It's that the Thames Community Board. So are we passing these on to council, and then consequently council will be paying for the upkeep and maintenance of it?
It would be a local, right? Is that what you're asking? If it's local, yeah. Yes, it'd be local.
Through the chair, the council has the final decision on making local and district rates. Something that community board cannot do, but they can
recommend to council.
So are there any other sculptures on this Hauraki rail trail that we maintain and support? So what's the combined amount of money that is spent on maintenance and repairs and depreciation?
I can't answer that question in terms of the sculptures that have been installed to date. They could have been installed with no consideration of the maintenance, insurance and depreciation costs. What happens then is that the council rate take, and that goes to the budget, the parks and facilities budget, ends up maintaining more and more assets with less and less funded funds. So the rating dollar is spread thinner if we do not consider the impact on rates for each new asset.
That kind of enough quickly, because we've got others there as well, on top of the 7,000, another $5,000 worth of maintenance and repair. That's $12,000, for example. You know,
you wouldn't mind through the chair. I think there's different, like in the, I mean, sort of like the Spitfire that's up by that Aero Club that's there's the battery doesn't require a lot of maintenance. The Jandal doesn't. The little balls on the hill don't require a lot of maintenance. Whereas sort of one that's sort of like that interwoven that's painted and quite colourful and will draw a lot more attention and sort of nefarious behaviour from sort of some of the locals. Like I think you will see that it will require more maintenance. A structure like that Miners Gate, we've got 12 gates like that, you know, it's important that we are sort of doing that maintenance properly, checking that we don't have corrosion of those bolts, making sure that those structures are safe is probably quite a big point of it. And in terms of those costs that I've sort of worked out, like, you know, I've made sure I've included scaffolding in case any closures need to be done and things like that with the footpaths. That's my comment to that.
So the question is interwoven, what's it made out of?
Sorry, I've just got one more question. Going back a couple of steps. The options A, B and C, are they what the public trust brought to us, or is that what we are proposing as a council? Like, do they know about these options?
Yeah, the options that we're considering here.
So do they know about the options?
In terms of public art trust?
Yeah, do they know about option A, B and C?
I assume that they do.
Is that 1, 2 and 3? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, 1, 2 and 3.
Respect.
Is it 1, 2 and
We
3?
have
A, B and C?
about council ownership and trust ownership.
Go back to my question, interwoven's made out of?
Wood and steel. So.
What's?
Yeah, wood, like a 4x4 or 6x6 sort of wood beams.
That's high maintenance. So then we get to the question regarding annual inspection of the bolts. I mean, how many other people who get consent to build things have to have an annual inspection of the bolt? Or is there a particular fear that this may fall down and on somebody? I mean, an annual inspection of bolts?
It's quite common in the playground equipment and things like that. Sort of if you talk to Philip Bolland, who's sort of like, these things are in public spaces.
I wouldn't classify this as playground equipment. I mean,
No, it's not, but it is in the public space. It's over a footpath. You mentioned before about putting the cobblestones out in Holland Street and didn't have any traffic management.
No.
Times have changed a bit.
No, good days.
So we have to, I think as a council, and we need to account for those things. If we don't, we're doing it at our own risk. Not that it's not something I'd like to have happen. You do have a wooden bulb, a metal bulb inside and old railway sleevers, so chances of corrosion be, is that right? Flex it, it's not going to hold it anymore.
Councillor Rodney.
Yeah, so, I mean, my position, and it might be time to sort of get to decide positions and so we can vote and stuff. I'm perfectly happy with resolutions 1, 2 and 3. Only thing I'd just like to say with resolution 4 is maybe I'm still unsure about I don't think the depreciation and that they be replaced at the end of their asset life. I think I'd like to leave that more open. And remove the depreciation and the other bit from there. But I'm completely fine with resolutions 1, 2 and 3. So that's kind of where I am at this point.
Right, that's a 2, isn't it?
Sorry.
Are you suggesting,
Point 4.
are you suggesting to take out the word depreciate?
Yep.
Reference to council receipt the gifts interwoven miners, gate sculptures, things like that. Insulation, Hauraki road, I mean, you can't put home, maintain the 2 sculptures, take out the word depreciate.
So maintain and insure, but not depreciate.
Well, sorry, that's on, oh yeah, sorry, it is resolution 2 as well, isn't it? Yeah. Own and maintain.
Comment, if you want to take out the word depreciate, so they're not replaced at the end of the asset life, then we would just adjust the amount as well, because of course the depreciation makes up some of that total.
Yeah.
And we can give you the new total.
I think it looked to be about 2,400.
Yeah. So our finance team advised that what they need to implement this is the total amount. So the number 4.
Is there some urgency regarding these sculptures?
Yes, it's been 5 years.
Yeah, sorry. Let's make it.
Oh, no, I was going to see, so I'll take out depreciation, I thought we'd leave it on the table and pick it up next meeting. So, thanks.
Just to add to that, we have been asked for this report at least twice by the previous community board. And you'll notice that there are a lot of stakeholders involved. There are 5 other groups aside from council. We do not own the Hauraki Rail Trail. It's owned by New Zealand Rail Corporation that leases this section to Kiwi Rail Limited. And we have a licence to occupy with Kiwi Rail Limited for the management of it. And so we don't have exclusive use.
Right.
Through the chair, I think our next meeting is in February as well, so that it's actually quite a long time into the future to defer a decision.
Will they be installed before February?
But would they be installed before February? The trust will need to start the process for assessment, either for building consent or for certification by a certified professional engineer. And it'll either be one of those two options, as indicated in the report.
Any more questions? Yes.
Just checking with regard for option 2. Does incur any cost for ratepayer if you go option 2?
No, there will be no cost because the Thames Public Art Trust would own the sculptures. And they would therefore be responsible for maintaining them and insuring them and any other costs associated.
That's your question.
Yes. Thank you.
Any further questions? Yes.
Would it also, Jenna, would it also need resolution 2 changed as well?
That's right, that's right.
Just to take depreciation out of there too?
So really, you're going to move an amendment to it. So
yes, please.
So you move the amendment first, and it becomes part of the substantive motion.
So I move the motion and I'm happy with the amendments.
You don't get a choice if you like to move an amendment.
What?
You don't get a choice.
Yeah, I do.
Move an amendment.
I do.
They just move an amendment. That's the prerogative. You can vote on the amendment, and then when you vote on the amendment, it becomes part of the substantive
Let's do that.
Unless you just want to take the words out by agreement amongst the mover and the seconder. I think we should.
Should the board not choose to go with the suggested resolution in regard to the depreciation?
Yes.
The new amount is $5,432.31, which is what our finance team would require to implement that resolution.
A difference of, what do you work it out to be?
$1,200, $2,200.
$200. And by taking out depreciation means that we're not going to make any provision to replace those sculptures.
Correct.
At the end of 25 years. Okay, so we'll take it, because that's quite a fundamental change in the original motion. So are you going to move that we?
Yes, please.
Okay, so you're going to move that we remove the word. Oh, sorry, and depreciate.
That's the one we're going to be agreement and appreciate.
So it'll read there, meaning council own, maintain 2 sculptures. Is that correct? Is that how you see it?
That's what's up on the screen, yes?
Yep. So do we have a seconder for that amendment? Seconded by councillor.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion on the amendment? We now propose to put the amendment, and the amendment is that we take the word and depreciate out of this recommendation number 2, or recommends number 2, part 2 of the motion, put it more succinctly. So all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Aye.
You're against? Yeah. Okay, do you want that recorded?
That's right.
Okay. Now that I'll just ask Jenna to tell us what the motion is now, please. Oh, look on there. Oh, right, much easier. So you tell me.
Okay, recommendation 4 recommends that council approve an annual cost of, sorry, what was that amount again, Rose? The amended amount?
$5,432.31.
Including GST from the 2020.
From 1st of July 2023.
For the interwoven and minor scale structures.
Did we make a fundamental mistake there by not taking out the words out to be replaced at the end of the asset life? Councillor Rodley, is that what you wanted?
So did we make a mistake that,
We did remove those words.
oh, they've gone.
Yeah.
They're gone now. Not that we said they could go.
Yeah, we never talked about.
Do we take that as read that because the depreciation goes on annual emergency default?
Well, I mean, I'm happy with 4.
Okay. But not much point that they will replace at the end of their asset life means that we should make provision for it. And that was depreciation.
Right, but if we're removing depreciate, then also removing the being replaced.
Okay, so you have to move that.
Yeah.
You have a second, please. Councillor Sinclair. You now see that on 4, we're removing those words and that they replace it into the asset life. Do we have any further discussion regarding that? There being none, propose to put the motion. This is amendment to 4. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, declare carried. Now we'll go back with what is the main motion.
Whoa.
So with respect, Adrian, you went straight through that. Nobody even said aye. I'm sorry.
I did, right? Fine.
But nobody said anything.
Oh,
I didn't even get my mouth open.
okay, we'll put it again. Okay, just flick it around, so I can see it, please. So, it's been moved and seconded that the words and recommendation 4 and that they be replaced at the end of asset life be removed from the motion. Any discussion on that matter, please? There being none, I propose to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Right, we're now going back and we'll see on the board very shortly behind. Then, and Matt, we'll see the new motions going up, please.
Somebody wants to vote?
Let's put the motions up minus those words. Yeah. Yeah. So that now is the main motion. So we're going to move on now, right? You take those words out, so they go in front of them.
Yeah.
Them up there.
We've done that one and we've done.
Yep.
And everybody else.
We'll move on. Yeah, we'll move on all the way to that amendments to the main motion. So that didn't say that was what we were approving, that was removing those words. So now we've got a main motion that goes on the board. Okay, I'll read it out. The Thames Community Board received the ownership of 2 sculptures and approval to install on the Hauraki Rail Trail. Report date 3rd November 2022. And the second part to that recommends that council receives the gift of interwoven and miners gate sculptures from the Thames Public Art Trust following installation on the Hauraki Rail Trail, meaning the council own, maintain the 2 sculptures. Third, the approval of the Thames Public Art Trust installing interwoven and miners gate sculptures on the Hauraki Rail Trail as illustrated below in attachment B of this report, subject to building requirements. Recommends that council approve the annual cost of $5,432.41, excluding GST, from the 2023-24 to maintain and ensure, appreciate it's gone out of the previous interwoven miners gate sculptures. Anybody got any problems with those motions as they are? Still happy with that?
Still happy to move.
That is now the main motion. Yes.
Sorry, just, motion number 2, we were saying council will own and maintain. I just wonder whether it should say maintain until the end of their life. Or something along those lines.
Oh, don't.
You wouldn't make it beyond that. Sorry, it's facetious. I got
I'm
it.
just not sure whether the expectation is then to maintain Going.
Future.
I see what you're saying.
I can see what you're saying, that even if they start to fall apart, we can still maintain them.
Yeah, so I need to take some advice maybe from Bruce, is it maintain until their asset life?
Yeah, so through the chair, you could, I see what Dean's point is, having this down. So you could say the sculptures are maintained till the end of their useful life or something like that. Useful life is the term that we always use for when they're, you know.
That's the term we use.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. So yeah, I put something like that in there probably.
I guess just that sort of,
Boy, we were so close.
what's the useful life of a sculpture?
Through the chair, what we're talking about is quite subjective anyway. Yeah, it's just around making, providing a bit of clarity, I think is what Dean's saying is exactly that point we just said. We're not just going to leave it. Let's just leave it now.
Cool.
Well, here's the deal. You're only going to get $5,432 from it to maintain them, so annually. It gets more complicated further down because it's also in full. So I'm open to suggestions from the floor.
Just vote on it as it is.
So have we got that for their useful life, is that what we put?
Well, we could, with your permission and Councillor Rodney, sorry, permission, we can add those words there without having to go through.
Yeah, so I'm, as a mover, I'm happy with that.
Agree with adding of those words.
But through the chair, I'm, happy with it.
So we add the words maintain.
Two sculptures for their useful life.
The length of their useful life. That's really a good point, isn't it, as to what is the useful life? Why don't we just say, give a definitive figure for the next 20 years or something? Or before it falls over.
Well, that's kind of what we're saying, the useful life, that's when it's falling over.
Okay.
Once it's fallen over, it's no longer
useful life. All right. You comfortable there?
Yeah.
Maintains to the end of their useful life. That's twice, that's on 2 and 4. Yes, Councillor. Good luck. Thank you, everybody. Quite honestly.
To do is more. I like it. Go end of there.
Yeah, but we're past that now. We've got the motion, we've got the cover set the motion. You should have had that before if you wanted to change that.
Did we get an option, did we get the time to vote on what option we wanted? When did we do that?
This has been moved and seconded.
Yeah.
That's
So we've already
that's
passed
the
that.
option, that's the option that you're discussing. Has been moved and seconded by the meeting.
So the option one's going ahead. Is that what's happening?
If you voted through, yeah. That's correct. You've already saved $2,000 a year.
Oh, I didn't hear you say about what option we were voting for. If we were going to opt, but 1, 2 or 3.
I just moved the ones here. That is here on our order paper. I asked for a movement and second for the motion that's on the order paper.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, obviously myself and Kishwan didn't understand that that's what you were doing. Is that correct? That's what you were doing?
So that, yeah, I mean.
We didn't get an option to vote for what option we wanted.
So I guess by voting for option, the resolution 1, that is saying that we wanted option 1.
Yeah.
Resolution 2 says, so it recommends that council receive the gift from.
Yeah, well, gift and ownership.
And then.
Which is option 1.
Yes, and then council will own and maintain it. So that is option 1, although to be fair, it wasn't it didn't have the words option one in there, but that's the same contents as what's option one, and you would vote for it. So,
Oh, yeah, I was sort of voting on it. I didn't really understand it, but just, sorry, so.
An easy way around this, Board Member McKenzie, the easiest way around this, if we put this motion.
Yeah.
If it's lost, you can bring in another motion.
Yeah, I'm just saying, sorry, I didn't follow on, that obviously the three councillors who have been here previously completely understood what was happening, as myself, which is one, we did not understand what we were voting on. Yes, I did vote no, but I sort of didn't completely know why I said that. I wasn't clarified. I didn't know, sorry. Just thought I'd note that down.
Motion again, as one I read out, with addition of those words, useful life, maintain for the useful life, for the length of their useful life, as the actual words gone in. And that was mover and seconder approving the addition of those words. That was smart writing. Okay, you want me to read it out again, or do you want to, I'll put the motion?
And we're voting all 4 resolutions in one hit?
Yes, you can vote 1, 2 and 3 individually if you wish to.
And 4?
And 4, 2, 3 and 4.
We're voting a package.
I think I've put the package through.
Yeah.
Because really, 1 follows, 2 follows 1, 3 follows 2. Okay, so I'm not going to read it through again. You all understand it? Right.
Pardon me.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Aye.
Is that a no or a yes?
No, yes. I'm against it. Yeah.
You're against it. You wish to have your vote.
Yes, I would like to have that recorded, yes.
Okay. Are you clear? Carried. They're not supposed to, these.
Can I just say?
Amendments and motions are not supposed to occur at the first and awful meetings.
Rose, can I just say thanks for the work you've been doing with Public Art Trust and getting this to a point where for so long it had been stuck. And, you know, thanks for your part in that. And we should thank the Public Art Trust for the, you know, for their patience and, you know, working with us on that. Really good.
Thank you.
Just, Councillor River, did you say on behalf of the trust, thank you?
What's that?
Did you say on behalf of our trust, thank you?
No, he's serious.
I'm saying that
We should thank the trust.
Rose should thank the trust for what they.
Oh, Rose, thank the trust.
Okay.
Anything else you wish to say while you're up there? Right.
I guess my comment, having been through this process twice now, is that what I alluded to before is that anything we want to do as a group together, we need to think about future consequences and whether or not there's an impact on our ratepayers. And we've got a couple of members that are very aware of impact on rates. And as we go along, you will see reports where there are impact on rates. There is an impact on rates. And what I would like you to always consider is the idea of our rate, the pool of rates that we get being spread thinner and thinner and thinner, the more that we add in to do without increasing rates. It just means that our level of service goes down. And, you know, people like Derek Thompson and Matthew Ulner have to deal with that.
But with
Try and make the money go further and further.
But with respect, we have increased the rates for this.
Correct.
Yeah.
What there used to be a very good formula. Every certain amount of increase by dollars, they go 1% rate increase. I'd be interested to know, I don't know what the formula is now, but I'd be interested to know going forward. Because if you are spending money, what sort of percentage you're looking at. But if you go back to your induction, you would have heard the word unintended consequences. And this is where you've got to think, extrapolate your thinking out. Not just look at things and say, yes, that seems a good idea as an ongoing cost, and draw your attention to Forest Park going forward. But that is something around about $12 per ratepayer for rateable assessment. So, yes, sir.
Can I add one more item, please, allow me? Oh, it is nothing to do with minutes,
Oh, sure. Oh,
just small.
yeah.
Every year, millions of liters, our fresh water revert to go to ocean. I think no one noticed we should have kind of reservoir, bigger reservoir. So every year when we have summer hit, we have no water restriction. But that's, I think this should be on the priority list, but nobody mentioned this one. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Rose. Okay, item, I'm on sugar lots of time. Yeah, no, yes. We'll point to that for last item. Okay, I just be reminded that we have 2 hour time for meeting. We can't go over 2 hours without a break. So just be aware of that, and I'm actually looking across the shoulder of Jen here and seeing what the timing is. That's very good. That's really close to 12 minutes. There's something here. Okay, a mover and second, please. Action schedule.
I'll second.
Moved by Councillor, second by Councillor Rebel. Received the action schedule report dated 22nd October 2022. We've already dived into this and had a look. Okay, it's all in front of you. Thames Community Board action schedule attachment A. Anybody have anything out of there that they wish to comment on? Just receiving it. Can comment. Sorry.
Through the chair, Rose, can I ask the first one, the Never Surrender Boxing Club?
Yes.
So currently council staff, or probably mostly you, have been looking at council-owned buildings and potential places. Oh, sorry, why don't I just, what have you done?
I know the vacant building in town, and yeah, it's been a really interesting process looking at where the capacity is in terms of both council and community-owned building. Currently, the group is looking at a building in Southern Collins Street, and we are also just about to start looking, if that doesn't come to fruition, at refurbishing a building owned by the Thames Jockey Club that they have indicated might be available. So that's the next step.
Okay, thank you.
As I mentioned at the start of this process, it is a step-by-step process. It's not something that takes can be solved quickly. It's about exploring all the options.
The other thing, just the other quick thing is what Mr. Hampton brought to us, the Carolina River Trail. What did we actually decide to do about that? He wanted to form a governance group. I said something kind of like some process.
So currently, the manager of that, we just don't have the resources to move it forward, to progress it, to consider the next step.
So what does a governance group actually mean?
It would be like a steering group. I think he's referring to more like a group that is formed to guide the project. But at the moment, the stage that we're at, which is the feasibility stage, some options have been identified and some costings provided for those options. And yeah, the roading manager has just identified it that at this point in time, we just don't have capacity to take the next step with the group. There's definitely willingness.
And he spoke about able to get money for. So do we put this on the agenda?
For a briefing?
Yes, please. Oh, for briefing, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that'd be good, along with the other one.
Walking tracks.
Sorry?
The walking tracks.
Walking track, that's the one.
Yes.
Yeah, walking trail, and whether we are able to be involved in that, that's the real question. whether the community board has any favourable on dog land, that's the real reason. Because we can't invest money where it's not our land.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the real.
Just on the action thing, can I just request, following the conversation around footpaths, that matter which is closed be reopened, please?
Yeah. Footpaths, that's this one here.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, and just on that point, I think if any board member, I include that everybody here, that if you know footpaths, something like that, rather than reinvent the wheel, just put it in to ensure. Yeah, I know, I was going to say that, but then we lose it then, don't we?
I mean, you track it.
Oh, we can track it? Okay. There are certain footpaths that are quite a bad way at the moment and probably be worth us noting them. Get the job done, down to 6 metres in length. That seems to be criteria. 6 metres, 5 metres, 6 metres, 5. Okay.
I think it's 6.
Right. Okay. Any other items? Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so just a couple. So, yeah, I guess with the walkways up in the hills of Thames, as has already been pointed out by Daniel, some of those tracks are already in place and would, particularly the one at the Moana-Tairi stream, would require very little in the way of actually anything being done to them. But I'm also very aware that often things like that happen with like the mountain bike club and the other clubs that and organisations that want to see something happen. There seems to be an organisation, a community group who want to take that on. And I don't know that we would currently as a community board be able to say, yes, we can start to develop those trails up in there just as a council thing, because we just don't have there's nobody in council whose job that is. That's what I'm trying to say. And if we say, oh yeah, that's cool, we'll do that. Well, how's that going to happen? And while I hate to sort of say, well, the community needs to get a group together so we can say, yes, we approve it in principle and there can be some funding, application grants and things like that. But then you've got Daniel here who's just really passionate about it, but he doesn't want to be forming groups and making incorporated societies and becoming a charitable status and filling out forms for grants and having to do all that stuff. So how do we make this happen?
I thought the action was that it was going to be investigated.
Yeah,
I think that along. Yeah, the action is going to be investigated and come back to us.
Take everything I said.
The legal if you were to come back and report the board and say, look, outside your jurisdiction to put in walking tracks because it's going on dock land or whatever. So we need to know are we able to put money into walking tracks? Can we have a committee of some community board members on to go walking tracks and bring in other members of the public, report back to us? Those sorts of things. We need.
I guess from a strategic point of view, we do have the 2016 business optimization plan that was adopted, and it definitely has a strategy in there around looking at opportunities in the hills behind Thames for walking and cycling. But strategically, we do have a guidance document in terms of looking at the feasibility of different options. Yeah, I guess we could start the process, but I guess, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've got to go to elected.
Through the chair, I think that one of the other important roles that the community board has in this is to be a conduit between people who are coming to us with good ideas and places that we already know things are happening. So in 2021, I think last year, we gave a significant chunk of money to the Thames Mountain Biking Club to explore making mountain biking tracks up the Karaka. So that would be an obvious place where we can make a connection between that group and Daniel. But Martin and I also last year attended a Tracks and Trails Forum, which was a little bit cycle focused, but I believe that there are other people in the peninsula who are looking at this, and this will be part of a bigger network. So that's another role that I see as a community board, as being this conduit between our community and existing ways of making things happen.
Could we maybe just look at what happened in Coromandel, that walking track cycleway system in Coromandel? Was the community board involved with that in Coromandel, or was that all done outside evidences of elected group?
Well, could we just throw it at Rose and, you know, just the broad picture? Hey, we've had these 2 bits of feedback today from public. The staff take it and come back to us at the next meeting with some guidance.
Yeah.
No?
Just through the board, for the chair, exactly. So we've got to remember the balance between governance and operations, and obviously governance are not able to direct staff. But of course, we have people like Rose, and her role is to be that advice, that advocacy. When we have our community networking time, you guys will inform us what you'd like to hear about, the things that you'd like to brainstorm. We'll look at some of the challenges and some of the background information. And from that, we'll be able to give you advice on how to best advocate for what the next steps might be, form up a few sort of game plans around some of those priorities that you might have. But, you know, we obviously need to get into those sessions and do that work, get any briefings that might be required, and just understand what the background information is. It's really, you know, staff are unable to respond to things on the hop. So we do need time to just prepare and think about those things.
In addition to that, the process that we're using for any kind of facility development, so this is again, it's a development or an upgrade of existing tracks, is we first assess the need, then we do the feasibility options. So we talked today about the low hanging fruit, which is the one at the back of the tiring, to test the options, and then we prioritise those, and then we figure out, okay, how we're going to fund them.
Yeah. So I hear what you're saying, being not a problem between governance and operational matters, but also we as elected members don't want to work in a vacuum either.
Agreed.
So we need to be told how we can do it, not why we can't do it. Please.
Can I make a suggestion? Step one, we add this to our briefing list, and we together come up with a way for the next step.
Because I think most of it's been done. I mean, Daniel's done a fantastic amount of work there.
Yeah.
And already